the Drunken Peasants Podcast.
I gotta get a witness. No!
Say, man, you got a joint? No, not on me, man.
I don't have facts to back this up.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
That's true. Sometimes I cry.
Oh! Lick my butthole, he laughed.
From the strangest corners of the internet, here to bring you opinions of the world from an altered perspective. Here are your hosts, the Drunken Peasants.
Hi, everybody.
Fuck it.
Didn't I
Go
say
live.
last night before the show ended that I would not be talking about this again?
Whoops. Yeah,
Yeah.
just consider it part B of yesterday's episode.
I have it labeled as episode 1011.5.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah, so here we are. It's the companion piece to last night's amazingly awesome episode that everybody loved and no one has a problem with, and everyone's joining hands and singing Kumbaya. We're all getting along.
The first part's right. The rest was ironic, but it was amazingly awesome. It was a great episode.
And people are joining hands.
And, yeah.
But not singing Kumbaya. They
Not
picked
singing
a better
Kumbaya.
song.
Yeah. I enjoyed it on the whole.
Yeah.
I think it was good. I think MrGirl is not worthy of respect. Not because he's a hebephile.
Yeah, so we talked a lot
Yeah.
today. We talked in text this morning. That's how we decided to come back on and stream. We talked here for the last hour together.
Yeah.
So so what I'm gathering is, first of all, you have no respect for MrGirl.
Yeah.
Look at that.
As a
right.
performer.
As a performer.
Yeah.
And he
Thanks, Chris.
he hides. Oh, by the way, thank you.
You lost 2, didn't you, yesterday because of me? Now you gained 1.
I lost 2 yesterday because of you.
One
yeah.
of them is in the chat.
didn't-
Hyperbolic Time Chamber Strand. He's in the chat. He said, this ought to be good. Admit you're hate watching, you little punk. And resubscribe, or I'm going to call you a coward.
I don't know if he canceled the Patreon, but he was talking about you in the comments, which we will review the comments too.
Oh, cool.
By the way, but your take on MrGirl, and correct me if I'm wrong, is he has very dangerous arguments shrouded in sensible arguments. Would you agree that that's?
I don't like the word dangerous. He's
Okay.
got stupid arguments that are going to lead to worse problems than we already have, shrouded in reason. That's
Okay.
what he has.
Okay.
I like stupid and wrong. I don't like dangerous.
Okay.
Because that feeds their side. Because giving a credence to the terms dangerous would make you seem like a pearl clutcher. I'm not
Okay.
a pearl clutcher.
Okay.
I think it's perfectly fine that he is an outspoken hebephile. That's perfectly fine. It's very obvious that's what he is.
I'm not sold on the fact that he actually is.
Oh, he 100% is.
Okay.
He 100% is. If you're asking me to take his discourse seriously, why are you asking me not to take him seriously when he says all 15-year-olds are sexy? When he says cuties, you have to admit, was sexy and they're 11-year-old girls. Why? Why do we cut it off there? Why is that performative and the rest of his shtick not?
Okay.
Is
I
it
see
just-
what you mean.
Yes. We're just picking and choosing here. That used to be the level against Jon Stewart. They used to say, "Oh, Jon Stewart is the most trusted voice in America."
Now, do you think
And then he
he-
would say something controversial, and then they'd be like, "Well, he's right after a puppet show, for crying out loud. It's a comedy show." No, you can't have it both ways.
Do
I'm
you
sorry.
think he's admitting to having a fleeting thought?
No, I think what he's doing is a very old tactic. Saul Alinsky knew all about it. Freud before him.
Okay.
And it's basically what he is doing.
We all want to marry our mothers?
No.
Oh,
he was
right about that,
That was a
though,
good
right?
one, too. Yeah, he was right. He's conflating his personal idiosyncrasies with society at large. He honestly, earnestly does want to know the root cause of his urges. I believe he does. He's asking some good questions. He's bringing up some good points. What he's doing with them is backwards. He is trying to put the cart before the horse. He is asking society to contort to his whims and his fixations. And the way he's doing that is classic Mott and Bailey. I was talking to a friend in text, and I articulated it there pretty well. So I'm going to share it.
Okay.
So I'm talking to somebody, and he was like, "Hey, you make it sound as though child brides are making a comeback." I said, "I don't think they're making a comeback anytime soon." And I agree, Mr. Girl will likely fade away as he's just a guy. But he's a symptom of a growing sentiment. It's going to start innocently enough. There's a problem. Yes. We need to fix it. Yes. The ignorance over this target is staggering. Yes, it is. And it's so weird because everyone is naturally attracted to 15-year-olds. Yeah. Wait, what?
Okay, so just to dissect and explain to everyone who may not understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying the first 3 arguments are reasonable. The
Yes.
third is kind of like the nail in
He
the coffin.
takes his hard left turn. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, what are we arguing for again? I missed it. Did we go somewhere else? Explain it to me, Mr. Girl, and he won't.
So Mr. Girl's non-Ebophile friends or viewers that are genuine and they believe they're in what I would they're all in.
When Mr. Girl was talking about how every man would look at a teenager's nudes. No, I can safely place bets that the vast majority of us would not.
And that's the problem now. Now the onus is on us
So
to
you know what
say,
Billy would do? Billy would say 19-year-olds nudes.
Yeah,
He would.
Yes, he would. But and again, it's funny. But if we're trying to have a serious discussion, which again, wasn't that the big criticism about last night? We weren't having a serious discussion. What it would be, of course, for those of us who don't by virtue of the fact that we're 15, which was the big difference. He said, and he added a sexual frisson to this whole thing. This is the source of his attraction, that 15-year-olds are delightfully middle.
Yeah, that was the big whoa.
Yes, there's some lasciviousness there. Now, you say, even if this is satire, to what end? What are you trying to naturalize, and why does it tickle you to get us to laugh at your hebephilia? Why? It's okay, but I don't think it's that funny.
It was completely unnecessary to mention the delightfully part.
Yeah, and to his credit, he's being honest. It's where we're fucking up and saying, no, he doesn't actually mean it there. He meant everything else, but he doesn't mean it when he says the kids are sexy, because that would give me very complicated points to defend if he did. No, let's take it where it is. Why is everybody so hesitant to take him where he is? Okay? He's telling you, I am a hebephile, not a pedophile. You're confusing the terms. Don't do it. Stop it. Totally different. I am not for fucking kids. Okay? I am a hebephile. I'm attracted to girls that are ages 11 to 15.
Someone's going to clip
and
that.
that's natural. And that's fine. Clip me on that. And don't even bother using it in context. Because that'll muddy the waters for Mr. Girl and their lack of nuance. You fucking love that term. They learned that word yesterday, and they think that's an argument. Not even the form of nuance, which the way he uses it is merely empty eloquence. It's signifying nothing, and it's leading to nowhere but a weird cul-de-sac, a logical loop that is going to lead you to obsessive thoughts that are going to trap you for the rest of your life, and you will have no hope of ever engaging in those behaviors that you fantasize about over and over, because it's not going to work. And it's going to cause suffering to the person, your eventual target. But they say nuance as if it's a catch-all. Like, don't you see? Hold on. Don't you see the binary here is nuance or no nuance? You were team no nuance, clearly.
So
no, I go a third way. I don't like the crowd that is like, what? I heard you talking about a young girl. I'm going to kill you. I don't like that crew either. I don't hear that. Do you see that guy I don't like? I think he's the pedophile. I don't like that either. But I don't like Mr. Girl. I don't like him at all, and I don't think he's an answer to anything. I think he's arguably worse than that side. That's where we differ. Do you know there's more than 2 ways to view any topic? Did you know that?
I wouldn't know that looking at the comments section from the last episode.
Yeah, me neither.
But I want to bring up, someone said, I like DP. And I want to, this proves a point I made earlier in private when me and Joe were talking. I like DP, but you guys were incredibly disrespectful to Mr. Girl. And then you guys acted like you weren't being rude.
Wait, what? This is a comment?
Yeah, it's in the chat right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
You guys, meaning you two?
Yeah, meaning me too.
Why were you rude?
I wasn't.
You've been in a situation, guy who yelled at, I hope, where you have a friend that is a bit of an asshole. You don't agree with him, but he is your friend. What are you going to do? Fight him?
Right.
Especially if your friend's one to fight back. Why do that? Mr. Girl can't hit you from where he is, and I don't think he would. He doesn't strike me as a fighter. But, like, what was Ben going to do?
Right.
Cut my mic? I'd probably steal Billy's.
No, like, anytime someone perceives that something negative happened here, I'm lumped in it, but
right,
never on the positive side. And I could, like, literally, like, write down in a notebook every time this happens.
You're a DP. Everybody likes you. That's why they're here right now. It's all right.
All right.
You're good. And you handled Mr. Girl very well. And that's why I left. People think that me leaving wasn't part of the show. It's like, how else were the conversation going to go? That conversation you wanted to hear for that hour that I was gone? Were you born yesterday?
Honestly,
Mr. Girl, you're a fan. You ought to know layers of irony right now, devices by now.
I do want to say
provocations.
It's really weird how many current Mr. Girl fans that were shitting on DP over in Mr. Girl's comment section proclaim to have been former DP fans, and that how people who are no longer on the cast of DP would have handled that so much better.
It's their version of the Groiper. I don't know who this Nick Fuentes is.
It's like,
I don't know who this Nick Fuentes is, but he makes me want to see him. Thanks, peasants. Their version is, yeah, this show used to be great. I think. I don't remember. It's been a long time. It's gone to shit.
I don't think it's disingenuous, though. I think they were probably former fans.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
Usually the reason comes ad hoc. It has nothing to do with what's going on the screen. Boos and applause should sound the same to you. If you're a functioning person, it should sound identical. It's fine.
I have a job at a high school. As someone who is constantly seeing 15-year-olds, I can safely say they look way closer to a child than an adult. The way Mr. Girl describes it implies they are basically adults.
Thanks for letting us all know that you're not an EBA-phile. Don't worry, no one thinks you're an EBA-phile. No, but seriously,
what they were saying is that he makes a perhaps untrue point about.
I know.
But that's going to be the problem, though, Ben. Too. You bring up a good point there. We're now going to get to a point that any criticism is going to be considered lame or performative automatically. That's the starch, and that's the devil in the details to this whole thing. You can criticize people for having these thoughts. It's okay. These thoughts can be controlled. It's okay. We've already painted ourselves into an ideological corner about 15 years ago to shut up very annoying, superstitious people when we reframed all sexuality as being innate and immutable. It had some good elements to it, but what it's going to lead to is my next point, which Mr. Girl seems to be a symptom of. We are going to reframe, eventually, pedophilia as something both innate and immutable. It's going to happen in our lifetimes. It's not going to lead to child brides. It's not going to be like that. In fact, the biggest barrier to it being accepted in popular culture isn't anybody's qualms. Those are as changeable as anything else. With the right framing, you can convince anyone of most anything. Most of you are actually a tweet away from genocide, either end.
I just don't get this argument.
Most of you could be convinced to chop up your neighbor with a machete if given the right framing.
I don't agree with this.
You see, and this is the reason why you're a mark, Ben. With all due respect, I love you, but you're a mark because you don't know that about yourself. You don't know what Mr. Girl seems to know. He uses his powers for bad when he says, well, we're all attracted to 15-year-olds. But
I don't agree with that.
But he, well,
and
when he
he's
said,
saying,
for
like,
example, you have never fantasized about shooting 32 people. Have you ever done that?
Have I ever fantasized about shooting someone? For sure.
Of course. Right.
And you have to kind of put yourself, in order to know something is completely wrong, you have to at least envision yourself doing it.
Yes, it's as
And be like-
Solzhenitsyn once put it. The line between good and evil is traced in the heart, in the center of the heart of every man.
Sure.
Every person, meaning. So that's where it is. And when we other something as evil, like we're doing with this, it's really weird because you guys were on Billy on St. Patrick's Day saying that he was using too much nuance to something that was indefensible and incapable
Not me.
of being
I was
humanized.
just drunk.
Well, two of the guys that were on here were doing that.
See? You're doing it now. You're doing it now.
What?
Blaming me for stuff other people
I'm
did.
sorry. Ben, you are DP.
No.
You're the face. You're it. It's all the buck stops here. It's you.
God damn it.
But I promise to compliment you more frequently.
By the way, Vito showed up right on time. He's on MrGirl's payroll, and he's here to clear it all up.
Yeah, okay, we'll bring him in later.
You want to later?
We'll bring him in at some point. Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
all right.
Definitely.
If he wants
hang
to.
around, Vito.
I do
Anyway,
like Vito.
Yeah. So
How much is he paying you, Vito?
But yeah, the crux of this is MrGirl is smart enough to realize this. He knows that Solzhenitsyn's line of the heart of evil going down, or the line of evil going down the center of the heart of every person. He knows that. And that's why he has the equation backwards, because instead of meeting you halfway and saying, listen, these thoughts that I have, I think it's a very fine line between what's normal and what's not normal, based on the nebulous concept of sexuality we currently have. That's a good point. That's a fine point. He doesn't stop there. He just implicated you like Sigmund Freud did. He just said, you know what, it's because it's natural and you're all like that. No, we're not. In fact, a lot of us are not like that because we think it's wrong.
But then he's also saying, like, he's using 15-year-olds as, like, this monolith.
Yeah, he's using it as, it's more of a figurative form. It would have the same punch at 14.
And people who had, hypothetically, someone that saw someone, thought they were attractive, and later on found out that person was 15 because they looked older.
Yep.
People like that would ask themselves, "Oh, am I one of those people? Do I fit into that?"
And that's what he's doing.
Right.
So enough people will go,
that.
wait a second. Identification. I think he's right. Maybe it is natural. Maybe I should fixate. No, you talk about a prison that you're going to find yourself in. What you focus on grows. If you don't know this, you don't know fuck all about your own head.
But I don't think the slope is that slippery.
It's not slippery in the sense that now you're going to go fuck kids because you fantasize. People fantasize their lives away. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about what you focus on grows. Thoughts breed more thoughts about the thing. The more repetitively you think about something, the more you're going to think about it. The more you fantasize, the more rich that fantasy. First, it's going to be a few phrases, visual phrases that you hum to yourself
There's
over and over.
two schools of thought
Eventually,
on this. I'm sorry for interrupting,
yeah,
but it's almost equal. Like some people believe that indulging in fantasy makes you less likely to act out a fantasy, even like something that's not even a crime, just like BDSM or whatever.
Sure.
You know? And then there's people that
But that intensifies suffering, because if there's one thing that's true, what you resist persists. And with people that are trapped in a fantasy, they always have this kind of stain of unlived life in them that really bears a heavy toll on them, and they feel like they're being deprived of life being lived.
What about someone who fantasizes about cannibalizing other people? Like,
what about them?
Should they indulge in the legal pornography that exists for this, or fantasies of such things without acting on it, or do you think it makes them more likely to act on it?
More likely, it depends on the person. That's the problem.
But you were just saying, like, basically exposure to material that's a fantasy version of this violent fantasy.
What you focus on grows. Yes, that's true. Fantasies lead to more fantasies, especially if they're accepted.
So it's never a relief to act out the fantasy in lieu of the actual thing.
No, if anything, the relief is momentary, and then it's probably sought after again, especially if it's highly emotionally charged. You want to replicate it in some way, even if it's a negative experience, which is why so many people like MrGirl were molested at a young age.
You don't know that.
Yes,
like, you shouldn't say that.
One of his tried and true said it. He didn't tell me.
I still don't know if that's true, though. I wouldn't believe it just because someone said it.
Well,
they were trying to defame you in that statement. I saw it.
Yeah.
So, like, whether that's true or not, I'm just, and I'm not comfortable, like, poking at.
I get it. And we're having a discussion here, a casual discussion. I'm fully convinced that, and I don't have any studies, and I didn't see He's molested. I believe him. I believe
dude,
that
I
fan.
think that's one of the examples where
Yeah.
you took the low road that I wouldn't have went on.
What? If anything, that makes him
fuck with me.
If,
Don't
Ben,
do this.
if anything, that makes him sympathetic. That makes him understandable.
Stop,
Do you understand that
stop,
most
stop.
pedophiles were first victims?
Yeah, I know
That's
this.
the point.
It's still inappropriate to ask
Yes.
someone that.
Oh, okay. Why? That would be the one thing that would actually endear
Are you
him to
kidding
me.
me right now,
That
dude?
would make him endearing me.
You're getting performative
shows,
right now.
No, this shows me that nobody understood what I was saying. Not even you, my dear friend. Not even you understood what was going on
my
there.
God.
If he would have been honest for even one goddamn second with me, I would not have pounced.
You
He
already
refused.
assumed what the truth was, so even if
He was in a shtick coma. Listen,
even if he said the honest truth, you wouldn't have believed it if it conflicted with your preconception of
not
what
at
you
all.
thought about
Not
it.
at all. If
You're
he
not
would have
100% right of all your
Oh,
assumptions.
I'm wrong
about
a lot. I'm wrong a lot.
Okay.
That's not the point. What you just said was wrong too. If he told me, no, I was not molested, what was I going to do? Nuh-uh, yes, you were.
I've noticed part of his shtick is that, because I've watched a bunch of interviews with him, is that when people want him to clarify that for their audience, he pushes back on that. And like, it goes back to the King Cobra thing.
Yeah.
Should King Cobra have to clarify that he's not a necrophiliac every time he talks about like a potential girlfriend or whatever?
No. The mere fact that Mr. Girl's main talking point and the source of this attention that he has on him right now is that he is a neutral observer viewing with empathy something that is a glaring problem in the culture at large. He has no dog in the fight. He has no horse in the race at all. He is merely an intellectual looking at this and seeing a troubling lack of nuance. And 15-year-olds are very sexy. We all can agree on that. Isn't that jarring?
So many clips coming out of this show.
Isn't that jarring? Isn't that jarring? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you juxtapose those two things? Why? I'll tell you why. Because I know Mr. Girl. I know exactly what he's doing.
You kind of have the same shtick as him.
You've said that too.
Right,
a lot of people have
right.
pointed that
You
out. That's
admitted
why
it.
I hate him. I know him. I know him very well. I know him better than he does because he doesn't even know what the source of his power is. I do. It's his intuition. But he won't even go into that.
He's intuitive in a conversation.
He's very intuitive. He's very intuitive, and that's why he knew to tiptoe my Cyanide Joe bit, which is the 5th time that I've used it on the show. 5th. It's a series. I think you should record it.
I think it should be canceled now.
What? It was my best trick. No,
I'm not going to live past 50 years old. I'm going to have a heart attack.
no. Here we go. I'm going to read something else.
Go ahead.
Okay. My buddy said, that it seems like I'm thinking he's being used as a Trojan horse to popularize pedophilia or something like that. That would suggest that he's like part of a larger thing, like some sort of glowy or a
or
massage.
maybe he's using himself.
Or he's using himself as that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's immaterial. I don't know what his purposes or reasons are. All I know is that he services, you know them by their fruit. Everything he does has furthered to confuse, and he's furthered to embolden certain ideas that are fringe and to foist them upon people that otherwise don't have them. And he's made the accusation to society at large that they have the same paraphilias and fixations that he does.
That's the big problem. And his assumption, but people do this with less serious topics. They assume
they do it all the time.
that the majority of opinions are what their opinion is.
Exactly. And that's enough to discredit him as a serious, unbiased thinker. This is my point. This is the nuance,
by the way,
that everybody claims they like.
Everyone watching right now, especially MrGirl fans that are probably watching right now, link in the description to the DP Discord. Join the Discord because later tonight, after we finish this regular conversation, we will be doing a special edition of the show Roll Call, which hasn't been around in a long time, where Joe takes live calls from the audience.
And no topic is off limits. I promise. I take all comers. In good faith, too, and in bad faith. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. So somebody said, are our buddy Jeff says, Joe seems to believe Mr. Girl is slowly trying to normalize public perception into a pro-pedo position. I don't think so. I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think, as I said, removing the stigma from being a hebephile, yes. Pro-pedo, no. And he's very quick to point out the distinction. We use pedo as a weapon, and it's a problem. It shuts down a lot of debates. It ruins a lot of conversations, and it's really taken the starch out of the power of that word and of that as a distinction. It's basically saying, I don't like you, and this argument is over now, and everybody pounce. That's being used for that. Now, what's really funny is if you call them on this and say, okay, that's a decent point. Now, about the stuff you finding cuties sexy, and how you're saying that we need to adjust society to make sure that it's more pedo-proof so that you can't act on your desires. This is where I kind of tend to disagree with you. I think the onus is on you to get therapy, friend. That's what I think. I think also that you're not doing yourself any favors indulging in your fantasies. I heard you asking the doctor if fantasies matter, and I heard your curiosity, and I know you're yearning for answers about your urges. Let me tell you something. There is something to the root of thoughts. Root is mind, and it leads to more thoughts a lot of the time, and a lot of times, not all the time, it leads to action, okay? And one of the worst things you can do to yourself for your own peace of mind is torture yourself with fantasies that you will never be able to act on. It is a great way to have an unlived life. It's almost better to be a pedo for your own mental health.
I do think
a pederist.
I do think fantasies in general, many people, I don't think anyone would admit to those kind of fantasies, but I think people who have, who enjoy sexuality, find that indulging in all sorts of fantasies helps them and doesn't create a...
It helps them get off, true, because it needs to be intensified to some degree. There's a bit of an exhaustion.
So there should be no fantasy play across... hold on. If it involves violence,
yeah,
should there be fantasy play in that?
If it's play, you can play. Basically, people can do whatever they want.
Of course.
Secret. It's the secret here. That's the big elephant in the room.
Right.
We're talking about aughts. We're talking about aughts, and we're talking about what's ideal.
They do that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So like the DDLG thing where like someone is pretending to be a little girl.
Sure.
And the other person is pretending to be the daddy or whatever.
Sure.
Should they do that?
Should they?
Does it lead to reality?
Does it lead to anything other than them wanting to indulge in more DDLG? We don't know. We don't have any studies on it.
I mean...
Yeah. What I'm saying is, will it lead to them actually wanting an actual little girl? It depends on what the guy's into DDLG for. It's just too wide of a net.
Why are they normally into DDLG?
Usually what I've found is that they have baby dicks if they're into DDLG.
Stop.
Yeah. Black fantasies matter. What another thing that Mr. Girl has is
By
part
the
of
way,
his
DDLG banned on Pornhub.
Good with that creep last night, Jojo. Other viewers, join me at taking this opportunity to get the two at least 25% using Streamlabs.
Oh, thank you.
Super Chat.
Oh, that's very...
Super Chat equals jerk.
Thanks, Seth Looks. So in the other big point that he seems to come back to over and over again is that he says the urge itself shouldn't be stigmatized, and that's implicit in his argument. The urge itself should not be stigmatized. Thought policing doesn't help. Saying, no, don't touch that is a great way to get people to touch it. But for a great many other people, it's a great way to saying, you know what, it's probably not good. This will not lead to a good thing. Because at the most, it's going to create a more vivid picture of what I want and what I'm being deprived of in my real life. And worst case scenario, I just start obsessing about something I'll never be able to actualize in my real life, and that'll cause me some degree of suffering. Most of us fantasize out of frustration of not. It's something we turn to because we're not able to enact it. Do you know how it's most
of us, though? I don't know how you could possibly know.
It's a heuristic I've heard of many times.
Okay.
Many of us fantasize due to frustration. Nancy Friday wrote a very famous book. She was a psychologist, a sexologist who wrote a book called My Secret Garden. And what she noticed in many of her clinical studies of women talking about their sexual fantasies is they were all rooted in frustration. That's where I got that. Okay, it didn't come out of nowhere. But and I found something true to it in other studies. But anyway, if we're going to do this with every single point, it's going to be a lengthy discussion. But yes,
Sure.
When talking about what was I saying about? Oh yes, the fantasy itself. With MrGirl, he says that the fantasy itself should be destigmatized, and he even says that the next level should be some form of robot, like sexual robot. That's not going to really fill the bill, because it's not just the form of a child that a minor attracted person is attracted to. They're attracted to innocence, and they're also attracted to the psychology of it, because many of them are repeating the trauma that they experienced as a child. This way, they're doing it as the perpetrator, which is one of the forms that this takes on. There is, if you really want to talk about a lack of research, there's a lack of research in trauma and the tremendous capability of people to seek out situations which repeats that trauma. Did you know that 60% of rape victims are repeat rape victims? That's an incredible number. And you can't say they're asking to be raped.
Of course not.
It's absurd. That's an absurd thing. How do they find themselves in positions again? Well, it's saying that we're in a situation where, in life, a lot of times we don't know why we do the things we do. We don't know why we're putting ourselves in the situation we're in. We think to ourselves we want to do one thing. We end up doing something completely different. And what MrGirl is doing is he's muddying the waters. He's not clearing it up for anybody. He'll start off with things that are thoroughly uncontroversial to my mind. We use pedo too freely. 2, we don't use pedo correctly. 3,
which are all true.
Yeah, thoroughly uncontroversial. Lucid points, right? 3, wanting to kill pedos doesn't solve anything and it doesn't protect children. I think even that's true.
Of course that's true.
Yeah, exactly. These are all things I think is true. All things. Yeah, thoroughly uncontroversial.
Most people that are going to go as far as molesting a kid, they don't care about the consequences at all. They are not afraid of the consequences. They've already decided the consequences are worth accepting, or they believe they're not going to get caught.
Or they believe they're not going to get caught.
Yeah.
That's the second thing.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's
And,
a huge part of it, and that has to do with with the psychology of someone.
The creepiest part of
which is true for
sexual
murderers
abuse.
and all sorts of violent criminals.
It isn't just the child rapists, like we can agree, are like subhumans. Like you just hit them on the head with a brick at that point and be done with it. Like, it's bad. Like, we're talking child rapists, Ben. I'm sorry. The state, I'm against capital punishment for the state, but I'm okay with killing somebody who touched my daughter incorrectly. I'll do it. It's okay.
You're playing a role right now.
No, I'll go to life in prison for killing somebody who molested my daughter. I don't care.
Well, that's not capital punishment.
No,
right?
It's not capital punishment. It's my punishment. You remember people, the thing that makes up systems? I still believe that there's such a thing as an individual.
You can do it, but you'll pay the price for it.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Or you might get killed trying it.
Whoopes. Who cares?
That's fine.
I die daily. I'm hooked to infinity, nothing else. And this is what people don't get with the MrGirl. They honestly think that he has something to teach them, simply because he's using the word nuance and simply because he's talking in a very measured tone and blankly staring. Tell a joke, Ben.
Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side.
I don't know what that means. Anyway, I noticed that people don't even use the term pedophile correctly. And, like, we have this situation where kids are really sexy. And that's a problem. You see? It just doesn't work, does it? It doesn't. But that's him. That's MrGirl.
Sure.
And he thought common niceties were beneath him, and I didn't like that. I didn't like his impoliteness.
If someone murdered my mom, I would want to kill them too. You know, like, and maybe I would try, but I would still be a murderer, and I would still either get killed trying or go to prison.
Yeah.
It's like, and even like the police arresting me were probably like, fuck, that person killed his mom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like, should we allow vigilante justice, like by the letter of the law.
What you're saying is my vigilante better than yours. Should we allow it? That's
I don't think
basically
it's
the
better.
same thing.
Well, we shouldn't allow it in either case.
Yeah, well, you're saying should we allow it? What would stop me? What would stop me? Another vigilante. Your force is better than mine, is what you're saying.
Well, no, I would say someone, like, if you go to kill someone, especially someone who had done something like that, they would probably be armed to protect themselves, right? If even legally or illegally, right?
Sure. Power is a zero-sum game. Somebody has to hold the guns. That's what the state's for. That's what they have. That's really the implicit stated goal of it. And all practical politics is to make sure that it stays that way. That's why we have divisive topics like MrGirls. It's a microcosm of what society does at large. Yeah, that's why nobody solves anything, and it just goes along the tracks anyway.
You know,
Noam Chomsky had a great quote. One of his best quotes was, the best way to make a passive populace is to strictly limit the Overton window, but allow for rigorous debate within that very small window. And that's what people naturally do. They're so trained by the form of that, which nobody pays attention to. Form drives content, not the other way around. Everybody's talking about the content. Form is the most important thing. Most people that are DP fans are fans of the form more than anything else. The content comes secondary to that. It was like Larry King. It was there. It's the same background, the same guy. It was there. The form.
Are you calling me Larry King?
You're Larry King, but with better shoulders. Joe just watched A Time to Kill. Never seen it. Michael Crichton or John Grisham, was it?
Speaking of Crichton, I just watched Jurassic Park again recently.
So did I. I saw Jurassic Park 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
When did you?
So did I 2 fucking nights ago.
That's crazy.
On HBO Max.
Me too.
Did
That's
they
where
just
I saw
release it on there or something? I guess. Because the new one's coming out later this year. Anyway, we don't want to totally derail with movie talk, but yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I didn't even know Crichton was dead, and then I looked it up. He had lymphoma in 2008 and died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. MrGirl. Back to the topic at hand. I don't know who's derailing me or you.
We're kind of derailing each other.
Okay. Somebody said, maybe you can better explain your position then because you didn't really do it last night. It just seemed to feed more into this hysteria.
Yeah, that was my kind of position on it. I don't think it was done as masterfully as Joe could have done it.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment. I think I did my best. I really don't like MrGirl because of who he is. It's a stylistic thing. It has nothing to do with him being attracted to kids. He can actually, if he ever needs somebody to talk to about that topic in particular in private, if he ever needs some counseling, I'm your guy for that. That's for sure. I can help him. I can help him with urges. I can help him use his mind in productive ways. I can help him meditate.
What's your alphabet soup?
What do you mean?
Oh, that's a thing like in the mental health community, all the letters after your name?
Oh, yeah. But
you don't have any.
I don't have any. I'm just a guy.
You shouldn't do that, though. You should, you're not a therapist. Refer him to a therapist if you actually think he's...
No, he needs to see me.
Why you?
A therapist might put him on a list. I won't.
Stop.
He needs to talk to me. He needs to talk to me. Can anyone address how Vito is just emulating Ethan Ralph's vocal style?
I don't know why we're talking about that, and I don't really think that's true. I don't know.
Joe, just a guy, MD. That's my alphabet soup. Just a guy.
That's not alphabet soup.
Jag. G-A-J. Just a guy. Anyway, let's go over some of the comments from
oh, God, yes. Let's see.
And then we're going to bring in callers, so if you guys want to queue up in Discord... We'll be taking callers soon.
Let me refresh this.
Don't hesitate to talk about whatever's on your mind if you think really nothing's off limits.
By the way, last night's episode fully monetized, which is very surprising. But now I kind of know why MrGirl stays on this topic all the time. So can you Are they big enough for you to read them?
I can read them, yeah.
All right, so there's a lot here.
When did Joe take a community college class and learn the word crux? I must have used the word crux. Last time I watched DP, he was just the random goof. Now he holds the show hostage while pretending he has insight on anything because he learned the term meta-irony from an iDubbbz video about Sam Hyde. Yikes, this was mind-numbing. If you want to know the truth, iDubbbz doesn't go far enough. iDubbbz puts a very readable TI dominant iDubbbz. Very milquetoast. I don't like iDubbbz. I don't like how weak he is. I don't like how he handled that fat kid who was like really embarrassing but really liked being around iDubbbz, and then he waits to be away from him and he's like, actually, to tell you the truth, I was uncomfortable around him. And yeah, there's just something very Weasley about him. I don't like him. I don't like his face. Everybody's using meta-irony, so I used a shorthand for it, but I think it's sloppy, and it doesn't really capture what Sam Hyde's doing. It's one more level removed. It's folded, as my mentor called it. Yes, I have a mentor, TLG. You don't get those in community colleges. I don't care if it sounds pretentious. It's a fact. I'm sorry. Do you feel threatened? I hope you feel threatened, because it's there to feel threatening. It's a fact. My mentor, who is a consultant for DARPA, among other places. He calls it folded narratives. And it's basically being oneself on purpose, or being oneself while commenting on oneself and delivering two simultaneous performances at the same time. You're undercutting. Sometimes you're your own critic, even in that moment. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be stated. It's communicated with a micro-expression or with something that belies the actions. Sometimes this is very obvious, and sometimes it's more subtle. Some are masters at it, and then some are Sam Hyde, and some are MrGirl. All right. Love the guest Vito. Great 2-hour show. It was a 3.5-hour show.
Vito, well, they mean the 2
2
hours,
hours with Vito.
Yeah, and Vito just said, read the comments about how great I am on there. Here's an interesting one here, and this guy kind of goes off the beaten path with this one.
Okay. Everyone would groom a minor given the right tools. I think this is close, but I wouldn't say everyone at all. As someone that lives in a country where the age of consent is 16, a lot of people above a certain age would refuse advances from 16-year-olds despite having the tool of the law on their side. Dude, it's such an insane take, says DJ Stents. Always a good take from DJ Stents. Huffypuff says, it's not that insane a take. I think a lot of people, maybe over half, would take the opportunity. He's absolutely right about other things he talked about, virtual signaling, pedo killers. This is one big problem that we have. It's especially attractive to intellectual types. Notice that that's not a positive thing. A lot of people say pseudo-intellectual as if that's an insult. If you're only living your life with the intellect, you might as well be a robot. There's feelings matter, okay? Your subjective feelings matter. They're just as real, however irrational they are, as everything else. Does that irrationality need to be turned into rationality? Yes, it does. It needs to be transmuted. But the thing that makes you care in the first place is a feeling. And one of the things intellectual types fixate on too much is statistical thinking. 63% of people do this, therefore, it's common and I should do it too. Or, I know my wife died on that bridge the other day, but statistically speaking, 200,000 people cross that bridge.
But they
every
do it
day.
the other way, too.
Hold on. 200,000. I know. I'm talking to this type right now. We'll talk to the other type later. We'll talk to the maudlin type. Trust me, I reserve most of my hatred for the other type. But we need to talk to this type too. It's called nuance. You remember that term, Ben? They keep telling me I
do want to bring up before I forget.
Statistical thinking is a terrible addiction if you want to get down to it. If your wife died because they crossed a bridge and you're going over the odds of 200,000 people passing that day and it just happened to fall, you're missing the point. You might as well say books are nothing but pulp and ink, you fucking derelict. Your wife died, and that matters. You shouldn't bother everybody else with it. You shouldn't expect them to care. They have a lot of stuff on their plate, okay? And if there's still humanity in them, they will care, especially if they're close to you. That empathy thing, remember that MrGirl claims he has in spades and everybody else is lacking? That thing needs to apply. But trust me, your statistical thinking is not going to help you. Confront the feeling. If something really bad happened to you, feel it. Feel it with your entire being. It's okay. Don't make it everybody else's problem, okay? That's a different thing altogether, and that's where the modeling types come in.
Okay.
But that's a different point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to say I was excited at first when I heard that Destiny watched a clip from last night's show, but then I was very disappointed. It was the clip where you asked MrGirl if he had ever watched CP, and Destiny's response was, well, everybody probably has at least accidentally.
I heard him say that. Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah. He
Destiny
said,
what?
He said...
anyone that used Kazaa that downloaded Nickelback songs.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
No, I
said
like
anybody-
Destiny. I like him. I think he's a great debater.
I don't know much
He's a
about
master debater.
I don't know much about him. I've never seen him debate. I think
He's
he talks
pretty
too
good.
fast, and I don't like that he sped up the
His
channel.
fast talking is a major advantage in a debate because you can just rattle off positions.
Yeah, but it's not intelligence, and it's no substitute
He is
for good
intelligent,
arguments.
though.
It's no substitute for good arguments. Yeah, but people say that about MrGirl too.
Well,
genius
he's-
is a dime a dozen. It's as
No.
common as dirt. Listen,
Well,
I'm smart.
Do you
as somebody,
believe that someone who's very talented musically is also can be like a genius too? And
No.
I'm talking about like classically talented.
Sure, I think Greg Maddox was a genius. I think being a genius is simplifying the complex.
Is Greg Maddox a pitcher?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's who you're talking
Yeah,
about. Okay.
simplifying the complex is a symptom of genius. I think bringing back something from the void and convincing the rest of the world it's true is a symptom of genius.
I think Destiny is a very intelligent guy.
I don't know much about him. I'll concede to this. I'm agnostic about his intelligence.
And by the way, someone said Kanye West. No, I'm not talking about Kanye West. I'm talking about like a top tier musician, not someone who's talented in pop music. That's not what I mean.
There's many shades of genius. It's common as dirt. The most boring one is the intellectual genius, the one that Destiny is being accused of being. They're boring.
All right. Yeah, people are saying this comment thread only gets better.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly, that isn't the case, Mr. Anonymous. That jab doesn't work. Not that it matters, but my age limit is very clear. What was going on here?
I don't know. And sometimes
I picked up on the wrong one. Okay.
And sometimes YouTube will delete comments too.
Okay.
So there might be some lost context here and there, but anyway.
Okay. So Huffy Puff is saying that it's close to being correct that most of us want 16-year-olds, correct? And he's using terrible statistical thinking as the form of his justification, which is awful.
And by the way, they're assumed statistics. They're not actual statistics.
They're assumed statistics, and even if it was actual, which was the crux of my point, it doesn't matter because anybody can be convinced of most anything with the correct framing. You can, trust me. With the right rhetorical tactics, even if you've studied the trivium, even if you know the art of rhetoric, you can be convinced of anything. There are very real limits to logic, and epistemology is depressingly limited. If you knew how much of the world was imaginary, you would just stay up at night and stare. In fact, why are we even talking about MrGirl when you guys haven't read Bernays yet? If you don't know Bernays...
I like Bernays on top of my steak.
God damn it, Ben. That was the most Billy thing you've ever said.
I know. I've been saying with him for so long.
That was the most Billy thing. If you haven't read Bernays yet, and his masterpiece, 1928...
I went to
from
Chipotle
1928
today.
propaganda.
We Bernays on top of my burrito bowl.
It's extremely rare that anyone convinces someone to act while openly saying they're evil. Oh, yeah, definitely. More harm is done in the name of good than evil. That's actually the key way to do it. As Huxley put it, Aldous, if you really want to work up a cause in some great venture, convince people that they can be doing good by mistreating somebody else, with the promise of mistreating somebody else. There is no lusher form of fruit, and that's why we have the pedophile thing to begin with. If we knew that, we wouldn't have these problems that we keep having. We wouldn't think, oh, the problem is the pedo thing. No, the problem is the form, that we think a word has power in and of itself, not the wielder of the word, not the one that we just allowed to label us that way and thought we could defend it either which way, or thought we should defend it. If it has no material to it, let it go, it'll go away. And if it doesn't, there's something else. There's something else going on here that maybe you're not looking and maybe you're not seeing. You teach people to treat you. Oprah said that. Joe is very weird, was clearly seething with anger for the guy, but also wanted to act like it was a funny bit, too. Highly confusing in a social setting how you can have an argument or a conversation with that mindset. Maybe. If
Hold
it
on, let
doesn't-
me open the thread here. We'll see what they say.
Are you a member of MrGirl's audience? I think this Joe fellow was molested as a child, so that is probably why you're so upset.
So they're like hitting it back at you, you know?
Right.
And I've seen that. I've seen people try to claim you're the pedo now.
Right.
Because of the way you acted.
The no true pedo fallacy. Clear they are coming from his channel and coming here. I have no idea why anyone would defend Mr. Girl. Joe engaged with him exactly as he should have. Schlaffenmeister says. Onion Desu says, Joe engaged like a sociopath.
Well, that doesn't mean he lost, right?
That summation is more accurate to say of the guy defending pedophilia. He's literally not doing that, though. He's just saying performative rage doesn't make kids safer, which is true. Oh, if only that was just what he was saying.
That is true.
You idiot. That's not just what he's saying, though.
Right.
That is not just what he's saying.
Yeah.
Do people listen? What is going on? I get the distinct impression from looking over these that most people did not watch the whole thing, and if they did, they didn't hear it. They didn't hear it at all. What the hell? That is not what he's saying. That's the least controversial point he's making. It's where he carries you. Are we that hungry for honesty that we're going to take any fucking Pied Piper? Are we that hungry for it? Do we lack it everywhere else? Are people that afraid to be
We do
honest?
actually lack honesty, though.
Yeah, are we that lacking, though, that we're going to latch on to Mr. Girl as though he has something to say? Something that could help us? Listen, just because somebody added nuance, the form of nuance to a debate, doesn't mean it isn't empty eloquence. Doesn't mean that it's worth hearing. Okay? You can listen to it for a while. Okay? Enough to discard it, but no one to discard it. He didn't even read Wittgenstein either. You can tell the meaning of a word is its usage in the language.
By the way,
Language Games 101.
You know how, well, I probably shouldn't say that. This guy here, he's being sarcastic, but it wasn't so apparent. Probably, you know, certain people have trouble picking up on sarcasm.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's saying Joe is super badass and tough. Wow, amazing. Yeah. By the way, this guy was in Mr. Girl's comment section saying TJ would do such a better job interviewing Mr. Girl, but I don't see TJ like in line trying to interview Mr. Girl. So I don't know what you think TJ's interested in interviewing. I don't see him doing a lot of interviews. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But TJ is, well, he's got a baby dick, so it's hard to take him seriously.
Oh, my God.
Oh, what? I'm not going to hold it against him. It's a bad problem. I just think it was weird that he became the face of new atheism online.
Okay, you can discuss that somewhere else.
Well, no.
We're going to do it.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
All right. We'll talk about it on a different channel. I'll take you there. And he's a midwit, too, like TJ.
I'm not going to move on.
Okay. I like him. He's
move
tall.
On.
Okay.
He is very tall.
Yeah.
Go ahead, move on.
Yeah. Now it's about him. Hold on. I think with the amount of episodes he's been on, he already is. Oh, Joe for third peasant. Thank you. Lol at your idea of tough. Oh, if somebody didn't read that he was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Yeah, whatever.
Daniel Ayer, my guy, he would put you in a hospital. We know Joe can be too much for an interview like
Who
this.
said that?
Daniel Ayer said that at the bottom.
Joe would put you in a... Yeah, probably.
We know Joe can be too much for an interview like this. Why did either of them bring Joe in for the interview?
We'll read that. Honestly, though, like you're my buddy and everything, but like it was kind of cathartic watching you fight the boxer guy because it's the only time I've seen you like back down.
He's a pro.
I think he hit you like twice and you turned around, which never happens in a boxing match.
Oh yeah, I know.
Because he was probably like connecting pretty solidly.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to fight that night, and it was my third fight in 4 days.
You beat all those other guys easily.
Yeah, I did. It was my third fight in 4 days, which is a big mistake if you're boxing.
Because your head gets rattled.
Yeah, so I already went in not in good shape, and that's why I lost so bad. But it doesn't matter.
Do you think you would have beat him anyway?
I didn't say that. I probably still would have lost. It just wouldn't have looked like that.
I thought it was interesting because, like, every time I've seen you fight other people, you've always been on the offensive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time I lost.
Yeah.
Fair and square. Why did either of them bring Joe in for the interview? This is why you can't take fan discussion seriously unless it shows that it's good. Like, obviously, they have no frame of reference. In 2017, the big knock against me was like, yeah, he's funny, but he can't have a serious discussion. And then, little did they know I was holding back on you. But that has nothing to do with anything. I have nothing to prove, and it doesn't summate.
No, you're right.
Well.
And I do like how Vito tried to say it was done for clout or whatever, and you're like, I don't have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You do have one, but it's been inactive for over a year, and it was all IRL shit.
Yeah, exactly. I can't be arsed. I did get some gear, though. Buddy got me some gear.
Lately?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, very lately. I got a stream deck. I got a mixer. I got a microphone. And he's like, yeah, I just got this for you because I believe in you. Use it if you want. I was like, oh, well, wow. That was very touching. Now I feel obliged to use it because, if somebody gets you a gift like that, you got to show you're thankful. So I'm going to have Billy help me set it up eventually, I think.
Well, also, at least, sometimes where you want to be on the show and you don't feel like driving down, you can set that up and...
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, you don't have to appreciate it.
If I may ask, how old are you? Yep, MrGirl loves to be the one playing mind games on people. Joe was just giving this a taste of his own medicine. Then why wasn't he funny here? He was. Could you name a single mind game he was playing? I'm just curious. It was certainly hilarious when he got up and walked away. MrGirl, he turned off the camera. It wasn't that he got up and walked away. But I agree, that was funny. Because that was a great move. Boy, you want to talk chutzpah, Ben. Was that chutzpah or what?
Why are you using a Yiddish word?
Because it's a great term.
Okay.
Do you know the definition given for chutzpah, when you give an example for chutzpah?
Balls!
No, that's true. But chutzpah, the example they give is... it is the bravery of somebody who kills their parents and then sues the court for making them an orphan.
Are they the lawyer in the lawsuit?
They might, but that's chutzpah. MrGirl has chutzpah in spades. He might be Mossad, I know, because I'm Mossad. And a lot of times we don't see each other directly, and we don't know who we're working for. You're given little tasks, and then you do them. You're told to say something or talk, or you're given a source, somebody who seems like your friend. And then you just say it and not knowing if you're peddling something that's true or false. But anyway, with MrGirl, he definitely uses the tactics of somebody who is familiar with the art of rhetoric, and he knows how to divot people, and that's why a lot of people.
Didn't Vito say his father was a lawyer?
Yeah.
That might have something to do with it.
That might have something to do with it. It could be he's a glowy. It could be...
Like, growing up... Well, I don't know about a glowy, but, when you grow up... I would argue with my father when I was a teenager and shit. If you grow up with your father being a lawyer, a master at argumentation, then maybe you learn a thing or two.
Sure.
So...
Sure. I think that's true. You're saying that Billy's wrong and that he's not necessarily a glowy?
I don't believe in any of that dumb conspiracy shit. Honestly, it makes me cringe.
Oh, well, you don't believe there's such a thing as assets for intelligence?
I believe they are, but not the amount of people Billy attributes it to.
Oh yeah,
is
it's
insane.
very conspiratorial.
Yes,
actually, this was another thing that was really interesting.
And it's always famous people that Billy Billy idolizes famous people to such a degree.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, there's no centralized mastermind behind the whole thing. Conspiratorial thinking is a really bad addiction as well. There was something... What was this?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Somebody said... I agree MrGirl is not neutral and projects abnormal ideas onto others. And then they knocked my view that basically we're despite being in a very sex negative time on the whole. That's kind of the epoch. Excuse me. Is very anti-sex and very puritanical. Really, they're like even saying people that are in their 30s and 20s are like, what would be the term? If somebody's in a relationship from in their 30s to 20s, they're.
I think what you're saying is like, and I've seen this.
Yeah.
People have created new laws about like not even laws, but rules, societal rules about age gaps, to where like if someone is 35 and they date a 25-year-old, that's almost like pedo adjacent,
right?
And that's a prevailing view, especially in online spaces.
Yes, because of the power imbalance, they're a priori problematic. Right? I
mean, what if the 25-year-old is the male and a police officer, and the 35-year-old is the female and the like works at McDonald's?
Right.
You know, like, is there a power imbalance then?
Right.
Yeah, I don't agree in these arbitrary rules that the internet
rules.
Yeah,
I think
they're not even actual rules.
I think some of them are like a self-protective layer that we have to make sure that there's sustainable development. I think that's good. Don't you think?
Repeat that?
I think it's a self-protective measure that a lot of us have instilled intuitively without knowing it to make sure that we increase sustainable development. So if, for example, you could turn the most common phenomenon known to the natural world, men in power sleeping with women who admire the fact or are attracted to the fact that they're in power, and you could turn that into something de facto predatory and wrong, well, then you would have the means by which a lot of people that normally would be procreating or dating or getting married don't all of a sudden. And that would be great. For the ends of sustainable development. Because if we kept mating at the rate we were 60 years ago, we wouldn't survive another 20 years, according to their numbers. Right? And I think that's why, like, Hollywood movies are so sexless right now. But if you watch any art house gay film, where it's really hard to procreate when two gay people are mating, it's the sexiest thing you've ever seen. It's like hot. It's like hot sex.
So do you think, like, I'm confused on your position on this, and maybe because I'm tipsy now.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. Gay sex is very in. Am I MrGirling you?
Yes.
Yeah. A different argument entirely. Somebody was saying that if anything, our standards have become more stringent for what's considered appropriate between relationships.
The 10 years plus 7 is stupid. Honestly, if you're 25 and you find a 50-year-old and you get along and there's not, I mean, they're not like your boss or your like college professor or, you know, that kind of shit. Whatever.
Yeah.
Do it.
Right.
I don't care.
Different argument entirely. The standards for 16 to 18-year-olds as the baseline for legal acceptability were only recently set in place, less than 2 centuries ago. Before that, grown men married young teens with regularity. The new puritanical push we're seeing is what's going to cause the slide into this acceptable pedophilia push that I'm speaking of. People never seem to understand that the very process of prevention through othering inherently leads to the continuation of the cycle. People don't know. It's weird, even that stupid cape shit movie, The Batman, knew this, that good is contingent on evil when it's set in a social setting, and vice versa. Without one, you don't have the other, and the actions of one dictate the actions of the other. It's the same thing with any Hegelian dialectic. We have the same thing in politics. The right co-creates the left and vice versa. One pushes, the other one pulls. If they don't have each other, they can't define each other, which is why people fall in love with things like gossip and conspiracy. It's a better way of clarifying who you are in relation to the rest. That's why most groups take on not just parasocial relationships, but de facto cults, wherein the leaders are the ones who are helping define themselves, and everybody moves in accordance to that. I said, MrGirl is not solely looking to mediate and rechannel the rage of the internet. Or ignorant. Freudian slip.
Yeah, it's true.
He's looking to establish a new baseline of acceptability for his sexual appetites, which is why it was very important for him to make sure, and this might just be the form of his argument, it's going to be the result of him saying that it's usually performative and it doesn't help. And you've already saw it already, Ben. You've kind of taken on the opinion if somebody's like, fucking, this abuser did something. You're like, performative. It's like, well, no, you don't know. There might be a lot of trauma there.
I don't assume it's performative. Mainly the performativeness comes from people who are using this kind of thing for content.
Right. Yeah.
The average person, not so much.
If we could condition with MrGirl's ideas the default reaction to pedophile or the charge of pedophilia or predatory,
the charge of molestation,
or the reaction, the harsh reaction to molestation, if we could condition that, the way MrGirl says what we should, we would be met with a big old, oh well, whenever we hear about it. Is it better than what we have? I don't think so. Is it worse? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know about that. There's got to be another way to do it. There really has to be, and it has to be, first we're going to have to abandon this obsession we have in viewing everything as a universal. Not everything is a universal. There's very particular things. There are very particular things that we need to focus in on and judge according to that, to try to form these heuristics that are wide-ranging for everything else. I'm still in roll call, waiting for roll call, right? Yep. Mr. Captain Snacks, it's coming up soon. I'll drop that for now. Joe, I get that you and Billy did the research on MrGirl before he came on, and you had a stance coming in. But it's a pain in the ass watching you go straight to 11 with someone right as he opens, right at the open of the stream when I don't have a clue who they are. Please, in the future, lay out why of your arguments, or at least who you're talking to, before dogging on someone like that. Once you explained your position, I wanted to hear his take on it, but I never got to hear that. Felt like you two were talking past each other needlessly, and not knowing why you were attacking so hard was confusing and frustrating. If you read this, thank you for your time. You're welcome,
You
Scotty
did
Bernard.
read it.
I did. Thank you, Scotty Bernard. It's like a Tarantino movie. Sometimes you start right in the beginning. It's a little shock, a little jolt. And then you guys think it was an accident that I left. Like, that wasn't part of it. Of course, I'm going to leave. Where are we going to take the show at that point? He's going to clam up.
It had to go on.
Yeah, he's going to clam up otherwise. That's why I left. It's all part of it. Right? And then Ben he said, are you coming back? I was like, yeah, I'm coming back.
Yeah. If you guys notice, I left for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So of course, and then he got to talk about his thing, and then he said enough creepy stuff inside that hour that now you figured it out, Scotty.
That was It the other shoe dropped with the 15-year-old. Like, if you could look at 15-year-old images on your phone, everyone would do it.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I keep seeing Vito.
Yeah, he's gonna get on. We'll get him on. Is he in the waiting room or is he in the thing?
I'd like to have Vito on video, and I can pop him in a little window and everything, and maybe he can be here while we do the Discord thing.
Sure.
By the way, guys, if you just tuned in, join our Discord. Link in the description. We're going to be taking live calls.
Okay. So while we're getting Vito ready, let's drag in who's ever waiting in the call.
Oh, you want to start that?
Yeah, we can just...
give me a second, because I have to go to the bathroom really bad.
Okay.
And I'm going to send Vito the... Actually, Vito, if you want to join, links... It's the same link as last night. You can jump in. I'm going to run to the bathroom, and I'll come back, and I'll get you in, and then we'll do the calls and shit. I'm going to put Joe on full screen in the meantime.
Okay, that'll work. I'm just chiming in. Happy to come in. Vito, of all the pedophiles I've met this week, you are by far the most charming. How's that for nuance? But even if it's simulated sex, it's still a depiction of minors being SA'd because they can't consent, and consent is all I honestly care about. Hi, Brainius. I'm reading your comments now. I'm going to be searching for hot takes from above. Lacey Ann, liked your comments yesterday. Who's Joe? I'm Joe, Nickerman. My father was scary big. I never argued with him. I saw what happened to people that pissed him off. Joe went from drinking bleach to being a clinical psychologist. How about that? Isn't the internet a wonderful thing? I changed my ways. Would be great if Joe made content, streamed, whatever. I think I'm going to start. Joe sponsored by fellow bystander. What do we got here? Joe with the 3 parentheses. You know what that is? It's an anti-Semitic symbol. And in my case, it applies. I posed as a Jew for 2 years in Israel. I was a Denny's busboy as well. I learned the art of being a Jew because I wanted to join the world Zionist conspiracy. And they wouldn't take me. Maybe because I led with that. Love you too, Static. The violence in video game and movies are simulated, and adults consent to role-playing, even in violent acts. So if they're between adults, since they can consent, I don't really care. Black Jill is having a conversation with themselves. It's an interesting one, though. The bleach expanded my brain. Yeah, it was Peter Parker getting bit by the spider. The only reason they didn't take you was your days in battle camp. You'll forever be a goyim. Once a cattle, always a cattle. The dead inside.
So, Vito, use the same link, jump into Skype, and is he still in here? Maybe he's still in here.
Yeah, he's in.
Oh, he is. He is. All right. I'll bring Vito in. Let me share screens with him really quick here. All right.
Who we got in the waiting room, too?
The waiting room, only patrons can get into that shit.
Oh, okay.
So let me figure some shit out really quick here.
Oh, okay.
I don't have Vito in here yet, but we can figure that out. He can jump in whenever he wants.
Okay, cool. We'll have him in.
Everyone, join the DP Discord, link in the description. Jump into General Voice. Just go into General Voice. General Voice, and let me...
You know how much more I would respect MrGirl if he just said, listen, and I think I've already said this, I'm a hebophile. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about these urges, and I know a lot of people have them too. We feel under pressure here. We feel like you want to kill us if we even articulate that point. This is a problem. Help. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. The culture isn't making it any easier. They're not making it better. I don't know. I know that I can't express it because it's going to be an imbalance no matter what. A child's just not equipped. I know that. And I'm not going to convince myself otherwise. I know it's just not going to be done. No matter how high their IQ is, no matter how mature they are for their age, it just can't be done. And I need help. And I need your help too. But all you do is tell me that you want to kill me. And I don't know what to do about these urges. If he said that, the guy, that's worthy of a hero.
Anyone who wants to join in,
that's a damn hero. That's who that is. But what he's doing, the shucking and jiving, huh? Those little tap dancing, the rhetorical flourishes, the salient point, and then juxtaposing it with, yeah, but Cuties was hot. Is fucking weird.
If you guys want to talk to Joe, even if you disagree with him, join the Discord. Jump into the General Voice Chat. General Voice Chat. Jump in there.
Framing
jump in
himself
there.
as this just...
Keep it topical. We're talking about the subject at hand.
framing it as
I'm giving you guys
I'm
a couple minutes here.
And then all the questions that he
here?
asked the duck.
Am I on?
Yes,
Who is
yes,
that?
Vito, you're here.
Vito, we
Me,
were just
it's me,
talking about
Vito,
you. Hey.
the great MrGirl defender.
Yes.
I'm going to make the argument that I don't think MrGirl is a hebephile. I don't think he's a pedophile.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. I think that, well, first of all, you have to look at that definition through a certain lens. Where, am I going to say, he's definitely was attracted to the kids and cuties, right?
Yeah.
So the question, now, some people are going to say, well, that right there makes you a pedophile. And it's like, well, not really. Okay, like if you go to try and get diagnosed as a pedophile, you go to a psychiatrist and you go, Doc, I don't know what happened. I watched a movie. They dressed these 15-year-old girls up like sluts and they paraded them in front of me, and I got a boner. Help me, I'm a pedophile. They'll go, well, do you normally sexualize children? You go, no. They go, well, when do you get a boner for kids? And you go, well, only when watching that movie. They'll go, well, don't watch that movie. You're not a pedophile. You know, it has to be that you have sustained, recurring attraction towards children.
Yeah, the oddly arbitrary period of 6 months.
It's not like a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Yeah, the oddly arbitrary period of 6 months, yeah.
I mean, everything's arbitrary at a certain... Is the age of consent some sort
Sure.
of biological line inside people? No.
No.
All laws are arbitrary. All definitions are arbitrary.
Exactly.
But the point is that I don't think MrGirl is like, man, I just really want to crank it to, like, kids. Like, he has an adult girlfriend. She's pretty good looking. She's in a number of his videos. He seems very content to crank it to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
I would
that
say
would make
on
his
the
arguments
whole,
even
even
more
if he's-
irresponsible, wouldn't it?
In what way? Which
Well,
argument?
Well, the entire practice
Which
of saying...
argument is... Which? Yeah, go ahead.
When he says he leads you down the path of something that's normal and non-controversial, and then he tells you something that's maybe a little esoteric, but still you can accept it. You can accept that there's a crisis of terms here, that we don't use the correct terms in the correct places. You can accept that. You can accept that the emotional response is so charged, it's completely off the charts, and there's no room for rational thought when it's that emotionally charged. It makes all rational discourse shut down. Okay, all great points. Then, to say as the baseline, we all would do that in this certain circumstance. 15. Or
But
it's weird to talk to anybody. Yeah, he
you seem
can
to think
be
it's
wrong.
like a calcul. No. Okay, so here's the stick in the ground. Is I believe that when he says something like that, he could just be mistaken.
Yeah.
You unknowingly mistaken.
Okay.
You seem to believe that he knows what he's saying is wrong, but is trying to trick us into thinking it's right to accomplish a deviant end. He doesn't say it out of ignorance.
I'm saying
He
what I
says it out
would
of
do, yeah.
purposeful
I would know better,
manipulation.
and I would do something like that to make a point, but in something other than wanting to fuck a 15-year-old. So that's
But I don't know.
why I'm saying.
I don't know why. Why do you assume that when he says everybody wants to? I don't know the exact quote, but saying that most people would be willing to have sex with a 15-year-old or look at it if there was no
Well, he
repercussions.
did say at one
Is that
point
his
everyone.
argument?
Yeah. He said at one point
He
everyone's
did say
attracted.
that.
Yeah.
Right, and I would say that's mistaken. I'm sure there are people who would not have sex with a 15-year-old. I would not have sex with a 15-year-old, regardless of the circumstance, just because it's a what do you call it? A moral barrier that I don't want to cross, and also I'm not attracted to 15-year-olds.
There you go.
But I don't know why you can't just say, well, maybe he's just a little ignorant. He thinks that everybody thinks it's like.
And I don't
you seem
know
to
why.
think that it's a calculated move to try and trick everybody.
And I don't know why we can't just say he's clearly attracted to 15-year-olds and he's clearly looking for a way to justify it. Clearly. That's what this crusade's all about. Why do we all want to think of it? Why is it easier for us to think that it's all performative or that it's all some sort of grand troll? Why is that easier?
I don't think it's all performative, but it is in many cases performative.
Sure, but you can be earnest and performative at the same time. You can.
Okay.
I asked him yesterday. Brody Show just asked if I've asked you, Vito, if you watch child porn. I asked him yesterday, and he said no, but he has watched Lolly, which,
yes.
Again, I think sexuality is very plastic, far more plastic than anyone is prepared to give it credit for. And
Yeah.
I think Vito...
I don't think Lolly is anywhere comparable to actual child porn because...
Of course not.
Lolly is such a cartoonified... Like, no child in the history of the world.
Even if it was photorealism, there's still no real people in it.
Vito, do you
Again,
think that
let's
there's...
be clear. I'm not claiming that I seek out lolly. I've been on the internet long enough and watched enough hentai that occasionally you're like, oh shit, how old's that fucking character? All right, this is getting a little weird. Like, if you're into hentai, sometimes you find the wrong thing. I'm not seeking it out, and I'm not honestly, I like older ladies. I like a big, thick lady.
Yeah, you said that last night. You're hooking up with Consuela.
Yeah.
There's something about that body, man. Especially if they keep it toned.
Yeah.
You should just vacation down to
do
Mexico.
do you think in a way, Vito, as a new friend, you're kind of fucking gross for beating it to Lala? Do you think?
I think... Well, I know I'm gross, but I think I'm gross for everything I beat it off to. I mean, let's be clear. There's a lot of porn out there, fellas.
One thing I know, like Vito's very honest because Vito's kind of a liberal, but his audience is very right. And I love when he just admitted to liking girl dick in an interview. I was like, Vito's honest about a lot of things.
It really blew people's minds, and I was like, you don't understand. This was the hottest trans... I wasn't sure she was trans until she took her pants off. I thought it was like maybe like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, is she really trans? She was so fucking hot. It was incredible to me. And that being said, I'm so fucking weird because I go, well, that was a guy. It wasn't really a lady. Like, which is the complete opposite of what a good lefty's supposed to say. I'm supposed to say, trans women are women. I'm like, no, I had sex with a very attractive dude. It was great.
Right.
I had a really good time. I'm a freak. What can I say?
Yeah, I noticed with the Netflix thing, you gained like a huge audience of like pretty right people, and then with your, tweet after that,
they immediately went running. I don't fit. I'm the jagged puzzle piece, man.
There you go.
I feel like
I know
that
y'all
sometimes.
are, and I'm not claiming I'm a beautiful special snowflake, but it's like my life would be so much easier if I just picked a side, which is kind of what society keeps telling you.
That's
to
what
do.
I was saying to Joe before we started.
Yeah,
the show.
It's like pick a side, and if you're on that side, say this, and this.
Yeah.
And if you disagree, you're allowed to disagree on maybe 1-2 things, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, man, I got a lot of lefty ideas. I got a lot of righty ideas.
Yeah.
I just go by my own built-in barometer, and they go, well, you're not allowed anywhere then.
There's no predominant
what can I
moderate political podcast out there.
No, there isn't. And everybody, man, I keep running into, see, this is why I like you guys. I don't think you guys are an echo chamber. I think you'll have on anyone.
We will.
But
and we have.
I keep running into these guys where I go on these podcasts and shit, and they're all like righty podcasts. Their audience go, get him out of here. How could you platform him?
Right.
And I'm like, aren't you the guys who are like mad about platforming like laws and banning people from college campuses? Yeah. And one left-wing guy shows up and says like, I don't know, I'm not that mad about that stupid Florida bill or whatever, or I think that Florida bill is stupid. And they go, you're trying to rape all our kids. Get out. I'm like, no, man, we just have a common sense political disagreement. What's wrong with you fucking people?
Right.
You
gotta love
drives
it
me up the
too.
wall.
What happened to us when I talked about the Dave Chappelle thing and how I thought Dave Chappelle's special was funny and appropriate, and even people in my own audience were like, "You're crazy."
Right.
So it happens.
Yeah, they call you a bigot, and you're helping that. And there's so much of that. The worst one recently for me was the whole Kyle Rittenhouse case.
When I saw it, at first I jumped on it on the side that he was a piece of shit, and I think he was dumb.
Because the way they presented it, it sounded like it. They're like, a kid showed up with an AK and started shooting black people, and you're like, oh my god.
He didn't shoot any black people. I think he was dumb for being there, and his mom is a horrible mother and everything.
Right.
But obviously, it turned out that he did defend himself, in my opinion.
Dude, I had a longtime lefty liberal friend or whatever send me like a 3-page essay about how I've betrayed everything I once stood for and how I'm pandering to Nazis and bigots, and someday they're all going to turn on me and I'm going to reap what I sow. And I'm like, okay, but that kid was acting in self-defense, right? Yeah. And then they just like blocked me because they don't want to hear it. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Can I not just have an opinion? Like,
should we bring in some of these callers?
In a bit,
a game of size.
But Vito brought up something really interesting that I wanted to touch on too. It's an example in a microcosm of how cultural expectations have transformed a lot in the last 20 years. And in this particular case, it was really interesting. One of the people that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was a convicted sex offender of a child, of a minor. And in the big debate, that was a footnote. It would be the headline 25 years ago. And not only that, it would be good. Everybody on both sides of the aisle would be like, good. So we've already kind of...
But I've brought up other examples why I feel it's shifted the other way, too.
On the same time, because that's the game, divide and conquer.
Oh, God.
One side is getting more and more puritanical and saying, oh, my God, porn is awful. Do you see what it's doing to your brains? Fuck you. And the other kinds are like saying, yeah, I want to fuck anti-porn activists more than anything. You know, it's really, it's going to this push and pull
Because I
thing.
brought up the Brooke Shields movies back in the day, like Blue Lagoon. Brooke Shields was naked in Blue Lagoon, and she was like 16. And then she was in a movie which I cannot believe was made called Beautiful Baby. Just go look that, I probably don't watch the actual movie. I can't believe it's legal, like it's still around out there. But like Brooke Shields was 13 in that movie, played a prostitute.
We confuse the current for the constant too much. The fact that right now we're in peak neo-Puritanism, doesn't mean that we're not due for a
pretty
huge
baby.
revolt.
Someone said pretty baby.
Right. It doesn't mean we're not due for a massive revolt in the other direction. And it's going to go where it always goes, and this is my contention. It's going to go where it went in Rome. It's going to go where it went in Weimar. It's going to go where it went in The Last Taboo, in Persia, in Greece, to kids. That's the last plateau. It's the last piece of forbidden fruit for people to take their jaded sexual appetites. Their jaded sexual appetites, they basically get to the point where they're only truly aroused by something that feels a little wrong. And if it's all dried up, if the last sexual frisson is all dried up on everything else, what's the last frontier?
You should read Roger Ebert's review of Pretty Baby.
I assume he did not like it.
No, you know what? He said it was not pornography, and that it was, if I agree correctly, or if I remember correctly, I'll have to look that up. Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
That dude's takes are like, Ebert's takes were always so wild.
He used to
like, I can't
review
nail
porn.
this guy down. Did he used to review porn?
Yes, back when it was considered like legit cinema.
Yeah. What do you call it? I
He
remember
gave
his
it
take
3
on-
stars. He gave it 3 stars, by the way.
But
Pretty
there was
Baby.
some movie where he just said like, this is like disgusting, vile, talentless porn. I know Brown Bunny he was mad about. I don't know if that was the same thing. Or he just said like, whoever made this is a fucking
Vincent Gallo.
talentless porn. Yeah, Vincent Gallo.
Vincent
Gallo is fucking hilariously insane now, though.
He is very
by the
funny.
way.
Here it is right here.
Have you seen-
He says, Louise Malle's Pretty
Louis
Baby
Malle.
is a pleasant surprise. Yeah. After all the controversy and scandal surrounding its production, it turns out to be a good-hearted, good-looking, quietly angelic movie?
Where is it? Elegiac?
Elegiac.
Elegaic?
I don't know what that movie is.
I've never seen that word.
Yeah.
Elegy? Of one to an elegy? So, elegaic? Elegiac?
They would not allow the scenes in this movie to be made today.
Well, that's why I got so worried about the Cuties thing, is I was like,
this movie is worse than Cuties.
well, you can say I don't like Cuties existing and it grosses me out, but when it got to the point of Ted Cruz being like, I'm going to prosecute this in the Texas Supreme Court as child pornography, I went, no. We know what child pornography is, and it is not, a bunch of kids dancing and you don't like the camera angles.
So,
like, you can be upset about that, but it's not child pornography.
Someone in the chat just said Serbian film Newborn, but that's not real. They didn't use a real newborn in that film. That's fake. It's fucked up, but it's all fake. But the Pretty Baby thing, Brooke Shields was like 13 and is naked and plays a prostitute in this movie. So it's fucked up, it's weird that movie even exists.
Right.
Anyway,
It was funny. It was funny that I was like having a debate. I forget what it was about. Some sort of like pedophilia, whatever thing. And I was like, well, because they're saying like, well, Cuties is, child pornography. And I was like, well, what about Lolita? And they're like, I don't know what that is.
Well, it's a famous work of literature first, right?
Right. Well, that was the funny thing was I was like, you've never heard of Lolita? And I explained what it is. And they went, well, of course you would know about it. And I'm like,
oh my God.
That is an issue. That does happen.
Yeah.
And
no,
really
everyone knows about that.
Yeah, I'm like, this is the people that I'm arguing with is they have no context for, the history of art or these themes or anything else. Yeah. They've just been conditioned to knee-jerk react like, you can have a reaction to it, but you have to admit these themes are relevant to literature. They're relevant to
Vito, you being knowledgeable is just proof you're a pedophile.
It's just proof of a pedophile that I'm aware of one of the most famous pieces of Russian literature to ever
exist. It's just a lesson that there's
only pedophiles know about that. Not only that, but the film and the movie, like it's the entire basis for the term Lolita.
Right.
And they're like, well, you would know about that, you pedophile. I should have clipped that. That was a great clip.
Yeah.
Also, when they were like, what's all those like statues you got? I'm like, from like Akira Toriyama. And they're like, oh, another pedophile. I'm like, yeah, the creator of Dragon Ball Z, but sure. Yeah,
definitely pedophile.
I mean, a little bit, but all the Japanese.
Vito, do you want to join us in taking some of these random live calls?
Yeah, take some live calls. Yeah.
All right, here we go. I'm bringing this person in. Let's see. Here they come. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, you're on live. What do you want to talk about?
Great. So I had a question, which I was blocked in the chat for it, but I was wondering if I could ask it here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the question?
So it's directed at Joe. From what I understand, his biggest disagreement with MrGirl is that hebephilia is not normative.
Is that the biggest one?
Well, from what I've seen.
I wouldn't say that. It's a stylistic disagreement that I have with him.
So when you were before you answer, were you blocked because you were spamming the same shit over and over and over? Well, then that's why you were blocked. So please position that a little more honestly.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to portray it like I was blocked because I brought up the truth, right?
Okay. No, that's all right.
Yeah.
So the question is, do I agree with that? I don't know if that's the major dispute.
I know you disagree. But do you know why hebephilia is not a medical term?
Why is that?
Because the DSM and the APA, which publishes the DSM, considers hebephilia and even more ephebophilia to be normative, to be normal things. So hebephilia is a legal term because obviously teenagers cannot consent, but the DSM does not recognize hebephilia as a medical term, as a paraphilia.
Yeah, we should lower the age to 13, I think.
What do you mean by that? The age of consent?
Yeah, the age of consent. What do you think?
It's 14 where I live, but I feel like you're
maybe 12
avoiding the. Sorry?
Do you think I'm avoiding something? What?
I feel like you're avoiding the question. I feel like you're avoiding the question that I'm asking you directly.
How so? What's the question? Didn't sound like a question. It sounded like you were volunteering a fact.
Do you disagree with the DSM?
What I will say
is
the
wrong question.
I mean, the DSM. The DSM is on its 5th version for a reason. Now, Joe isn't a psychologist.
Hold on. Let me tell you why it's the wrong question for a guy talking. What is this obsession with experts when we got fucking MrGirl doing this? Like, come on. We're all lay people. Let's talk like lay people.
Of course.
Okay?
Yep.
It's
exactly because
It doesn't matter if tomorrow the DSM-5 put it in their list of paraphilias. It wouldn't make you any less apt to think that it's not sexy. The question is it right or wrong? I don't care about legality, and I don't care about the terms. Is it going to have a good effect or not? If it doesn't, I don't really want it, and I don't think we should facilitate the ends to make sure that it happens.
Well, we're talking about two different things. The idea of is it right to be attracted to 15-year-olds, and is it right to act on it? And actually, is it normal to be attracted to 15-year-olds and is it normal to have sex
that's
with
my
15-year-old? I think we're all in agreement.
it's
It
the
is not
wrong
normal to have sex with 15-year-olds.
Of
But it
course.
does seem like a lot of people are attracted to them, and
you are, Vito? I'm not personally.
No, of course not. But what do you what harm does it cause when someone's attracted to a 15-year-old?
What harm does it cause?
Yeah, to them or the what
only
is
to
the harm that you
themselves.
define?
Only to themselves. If they're lusting after a 15-year-old, they'll never be able to act on it. If that causes them displeasure, that's the extent of the pain. I don't believe in policing the thoughts. We can say, ew, gross, and I'll share that thought. Ew, gross.
But I think that's
but
what
that
Mr.
doesn't
Girl's
mean it should
talking
be
about
illegal.
is like if a guy says, "Oh man, I'm attracted to 15-year-olds." Why are we treating him as a pariah because we're worried it's going to lead to action? Or
Yes,
that you
it
can't
will.
voice that
And yes, it will,
out
especially if we
loud?
remove the stigma that we have in place. The stigma's there for a very good reason. Sometimes constraints, believe it or not, ready? They're a good thing. Sometimes standards,
But if we know
base
that something
standards,
is-
are you ready?
Yeah.
Are a good thing. Sometimes,
Well, so it's just a matter of being polite then.
sometimes shame is a good thing. All of these
Like
things.
if I see a chick with huge knockers in my head, I go, man, I wish I could grab those and knock them around.
Sure. Yeah,
And we're
and that's the
arguing
difference
for the
between you
sake of
and Mr.
society
Girl saying those are
is to keep it to
delightfully middle.
yourself.
Some people fetishize the fact. Mr. Girl, you get a boner, Vito, around 15-year-olds because they remind you of an adult with big knockers. Okay? This is where you're different. Mr. Girl and Trindamere, they get a boner around a 15-year-old by virtue of the fact that she's a 15-year-old. That's the difference. And that's the difference of the thought. Do you understand now?
Can I talk?
Yeah, of
Please.
course.
Let him go.
Thank you. So really, the only thing I'm trying to ask you here, and I think you're getting really agitated, I'm just trying to ask you. Okay. Did I misinterpret or not? Do you disagree that it's normative to be attracted to teens post-puberty who are not yet legal?
It has nothing to do with whether or not it's normative.
It's a simple question.
It's
I
the
feel like
wrong
it's...
question. It's the wrong question.
Wait, so can I only
disagree?
ask the questions you want to answer?
It's the wrong question.
I could say it seems very common.
Yeah, it's not salient.
I don't
Like
know if it's
asking.
majority or not, but
Asking,
because that's your
hold on,
disagreement
let me
with Mr.
talk.
Girl.
You asked me a question, so let me talk
Yes,
through it.
okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so Mr. Girl asking him if he was molested is pertinent. It's an important question because that'll explain everything about his case.
Right.
And it turns out he was molested. You know this, Trindamere, as a dyed-in-the-wool fan of his. Right. Okay, so I was right there. And asking him if he watches CP out of curiosity, that's an important question because that'll know if he has taken it from the fantasy stage to the physical stage of watching. And who knows what comes after that. In fact, yeah, if we started looking at child porn, would it become normative if it was everything there? What makes it normative?
Okay.
It's definitely not consensus. Consensus can be changed at a hat, and my baseline was anybody can be convinced of anything given the right framing. It doesn't matter what the DSM says about it being normative or it being a quote-unquote problem. A lot of people are aroused by a 15-year-old before they find out she's 15. That happens. That's a visual phenomenon. That has nothing to do with right or wrong. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Mr. Girl, who gets off specifically because she's 15. That's why he draws out the lascivious terms. Yeah,
Joe,
say
you
it,
do
Trindamere.
not disagree.
You sound agitated.
I am. You do not disagree with Mr. Girl at all.
Mm-hmm.
You've made a
I don't like
characterization.
him. I don't like him.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you instead of talking about his personality, you talk about his points. And it seems to me that you've been hammering on this point for the last 2 hours that Mr. Girl is trying to push on to the rest of us that we're attracted to 15-year-olds or some shit.
I think you are, yeah.
Okay, are you?
No. I think you
Okay,
are.
so let me ask you a question. You asked Mr. Girl the question if he's watched CP, and you got very angry that he didn't answer it. Can I ask you a similar question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And this is a question that Mr. Girl likes to ask people, and I think it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you get kidnapped by Jigsaw from the Saw movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're taken into a room, and he says, "Hey, you gotta play a game, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna watch."
Fuck the kid or die?
No, you're gonna watch pornography, child pornography, like a 15-year-old girl, or better yet, a 15-year-old girl is gonna twerk on you. and you have a shotgun, and the trigger is tied to your penis, and if you get hard, it's gonna blow your brains out. Do you think you're gonna survive that?
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah, there's a gun to my head.
Yeah, I think that's a bad way of phrasing it. I think the
Oh,
fear
you're-
is going
you're-
to be a bigger
That's
part
kind
of
of
it.
a boner killer.
weaselly. That's so weaselly. Obviously,
yeah,
the
you're
question
right.
What do you mean
is...
it's
No, 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 no.
weaselly?
Well,
Hold on.
you have to-
You asked the question, and it is
Okay.
true. Who's going to get hard with a gun to their head? Unless
Okay, you
that's
don't
your
know the
thing.
gun is
With a
there. You
jigsaw.
have no idea
No,
the
there's a
gun is
better
there.
way. The
Turn
better
the
way to
mirror.
Hold
phrase
on.
it
Oh,
is-
now we don't know
Yeah.
the gun is.
Yeah,
to
you
our
don't
head.
know. You don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
way to switch it up, buddy.
Yeah,
that was a big
switch it
Come
difference.
up.
on,
Here's
man.
how you-
Switch it
Tryndamere,
up.
I don't know if you've ever been threatened with a deadly weapon, but I have. I could tell you one of the last things on my mind was sex.
Okay. So you don't know
Oh, but
about
how
the shot.
can you do that with all those 15-year-olds around, Joe? Listen
I know
to this
the I
guy's
know the correct way
example.
to phrase that hypothetical. Do you
Yeah.
want to know the way
Yeah,
you're
go
supposed to
ahead,
phrase
Vito.
it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a strip club full
Oh,
of
no.
15-year-olds.
Oh,
Check
that's
it
even
out.
worse.
No, it's not even worse.
I love
It's
how
just-
you guys are like, yeah, both of your examples are pretty bad. They are.
Well, I think
No,
They're
this
both-
is a
I told-
perfect
They're
example.
both really bad.
I told Max before he came on the show. Your
This is a
hypothetical.
good one.
I literally told him before. No. I told him before he came on the show because, you know what? Obviously, we know. Not even Joe acknowledged some of the stuff he says are sensible. Joe says he cloaks the bad shit behind the sensible shit. But I even told him your analogies are dog shit. They're dog shit analogies.
No, they're great. This
Go
is a great
ahead.
one.
Go ahead then. Let's hear it.
I've got Uncle Vito's 15-year-old strip show. It's a fun, exciting circus. Lots of attractions and fun. Okay. And I make you a deal. I go, listen, Joe, you claim you'll never be aroused by a 15-year-old. You guarantee it. Okay. I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to have one of these 15-year-olds grind on you for 10 minutes. And if you can sustain it, I'll give you $1 million. But if you get a boner, you owe me $1 million. And even to remove any chance of moral ambiguity, these girls are robots, Joe. They have no true feelings. You can't come out of this and say I harmed an actual child. It's all make-believe. Would you take the $1 million 15-year-old robot grinding on you for 10 minutes? No boner, you win. You get a boner.
You could
lose.
almost ask the same
What-
question
what
as
a
someone
dumb-
who's into midgets, right?
Are these the questions?
Let him answer,
These are pathetic. This is
How
not
they
just answer.
This is not good, Vito. They're
So-
a robot. You removed all the moral stigma.
Sure,
to the
they're
whole
a
thing.
midget. They have a body
Oh
of
my
a
God.
5-year-old,
They're a
but they're
robot.
35 years
Well,
old.
you have to remove the harm as the
Yeah,
idea
you
is, are there-
removed everything that made it a moral dilemma, which is the entire purpose of the fucking exercise. Are you guys
No,
new?
Joe, but that's
Are
not
you
what
guys
Mr. Girl
new?
says.
Is
Mr.
this
Girl
not a
doesn't
moral-
say.
Don't
Mr. Girl doesn't say it's normal to be attracted to harming little girls. Mr. Girl says it's normal to be attracted to the body of a teenage girl. And it is. The DSM agrees, the APA agrees. It is normal. It's not good. It's not good. It's not safe. It should be stigmatized. And it should be illegal to act upon it. But we should stop pretending that it's not normal to be attracted.
Who's pretending? The only one talking about it is you weirdo. Like everybody else.
You've talked about it for 2 hours.
No, what I talked about you, and that's why I knew it was weird when you opened with that. Would you say that's the main crux of your argument, or whatever weird Austrian dialect you have? It was really gross. That accent. It's okay. I'm being xenophobic, but you're gross.
You are xenophobic.
Yeah, big time.
Matt, we're not talking about my 15-year-old robot strip
Yeah.
club anymore.
By
I
the
really
way,
feel like I
so tell
here's
me.
Ariel said if a 19-year-old who hooks up with a 15-year-old who they thought was
Hold on.
18 is the
Let's
19-year-old wrong? Of course
This
not.
is why he led with that. Would you say that the biggest disagreement between you and Mr. Girl is that hebephilia is not normative? It seemed so out of left field and a false
Yeah, 'cause I
framing
thought
of the
it
entire
was.
thing.
So
Either
what's the
you're
disagreement?
a bullshit listener, or you're trying to prove something that it doesn't even have any bearing on this. The one argument you have in your arsenal isn't going to work. It doesn't apply to me. It doesn't matter. If people get boners around 15-year-olds, it's because they're reminded of an adult. When you get boners around 15-year-olds,
I mean, like, some people get
when
boner.
you get boners, Trindare, I'm talking to you, Trindamere. I'm
I'm
not talking
thinking
about.
how young-
I'm not
how
talking
young
about the
and innocent
DSM.
they are, of
I'm not
course.
talking about anything else. You're aroused by the fact that they're 15. Now stay
Yeah,
in it.
they're stupid.
Stay in it and think about it.
Hold on. Studies.
Yes.
I mean, like, people also get aroused from like a hernia exam. Doesn't mean they're attracted to their doctor, right?
It's a stupid
Sure.
question. It's a stupid
It's
set
not.
of questions.
Okay,
it
so
doesn't
you're-
have
you're-
any. Yeah, it's not.
Okay,
material.
your answer to my stupid question is that you are indeed attracted to 15-year-old girls physically.
Not when I know they're 15.
Okay, so what if you know? What happens when you know? Does the physical, visual attraction, as you put it, just poof?
Oh no! You know what happens, Trindamir?
Tell me.
I say, oh wow, she could never function in an adult relationship. Me
Of
making
course.
any move on her would be the weirdest, grossest,
It would.
most inappropriate thing in the world. I
Indeed.
feel a little icky. I need to shower now.
I believe
And
in
keep
capital
Trindamir-
punishment.
And keep Trindamir far away from any kid. Far, far away.
So Trindamir, any last words? Because we got a bunch of people waiting to get
Yep.
on.
Next.
So.
Indeed. My only last words are that Joe agrees with MrGirl. He agrees with everything I said, but this pisses him off for whatever reason. He just doesn't like MrGirl's personality.
I know
so
you are,
he's
but
just,
what am I?
Yeah, I
He's
don't
just
like his
banking
face.
on personal attacks.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't a debate.
Isn't Joe
Trindamir.
better at it than Mr. Girl? Come on, admit
Yeah.
it.
He's funnier. I'll say that.
All
Thank you.
right, there
Thank
we
you.
go.
We won one. Good
All
job,
right,
Trindamir. Thank you,
here's-
Trindamir.
Is Vito still here?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to let you guys. I didn't want to step on any.
Are you going to
toes.
turn your camera on, Vito, or are you?
Oh, is my camera off?
No. Yeah, it's
the
off.
whole time. I thought it was a better show for it.
Oh,
I'm
be
kidding,
nice.
Vito.
It says
Vito.
my video. Oh, my OBS is on. That's why.
Oh yeah. We have
It's weird that you
someone.
can only use a webcam and one thing at a time.
There's a way around that, but it's.
Yeah, you have to get a program, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on one of these windows here.
Hello.
Did I just show up?
Hold on. Yeah. Someone's in the chat also right now. By the way. Hi. What do you want to say to Joe?
Hi, Xanadu.
Hi. Generally speaking, talking about this whole MrGirl thing, I want to understand. Like last night, I sit down to DP and I see they're having this guy on. And the only thing that I know about MrGirl coming into the conversation is what I've heard on previous episodes of DP, which is he does rap stuff. And
he does do rap stuff,
and that's basically all I knew. So the biggest issue that I had with what was going on last night was, why is Joe so pissed now? What happened when you weren't here earlier to get to this level of acidic Joe? I don't know. Why was all this vitriol coming out?
Cyanide.
Now, over the course of the episode, the information came out later on that it made more sense as to everything lined up later. But I guess that's my one thing about the
Vito. I'm
the
gonna call you
encounter.
back in 1 second here.
So what's the question,
Okay.
Xanadu?
Sorry, I had to call Vito back. Go ahead. Keep going.
The only question I have is, do you think that the argument could have been made better if you let him hang himself first and then come in with that?
Oh, only if I was looking to.
Well, I was thinking more from the perspective of explaining the point to the fan base as opposed to just the argument itself.
No, sometimes noise is a great grabber. Do you ever see a Tarantino movie?
Yes.
You know how they start in the middle?
There we go.
Generally,
my God.
yes.
Yeah, it's a lot like that.
Fair enough.
Here.
Yes, and now you're on screen. Thank you.
Excited.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the show, Xanadu?
For the most part, yes. Like I said, the beginning was relatively... I had to skip ahead a little bit at the beginning because it was a lot of... Why is everyone yelling at each other? Why are people
Yeah,
angry?
and
What's
as I
happening
told
here?
you, Joe, like some people, they're like they don't enjoy.
They want their beginnings in the beginning.
Right.
They don't want. Yeah, they don't want to start in the middle. Who wants
Well,
to do
and also,
that?
any kind of just primer for who MrGirl was, because again, heard he did rap stuff, and again, he did. I heard about the two songs about the pedophile stuff that they were talked about.
Did you
on the
listen
show.
to Did you listen to the music? It's fantastic.
No, I haven't heard the music. I haven't
Well,
watched
you're
any of his
killing it.
videos. I was totally, like I said, I came in with literally just what they have said on DP over the past month or two about the guy.
Yeah.
So that's where I was.
Even Billy will admit that MrGirl's raps are good, like surprisingly good.
They are.
Like, I was expecting it to be a discussion of Billy and MrGirl discussing rap, because that's what I heard about coming in the door.
I wanted to get into that, but I will say MrGirl, and we can kind of say this, MrGirl is a little sensitive guy. He's kind of sensitive.
He's a buzzkill. He's humorless and dour. He's just not likable. That's the problem with MrGirl.
The entirety of his little spiel was that he's particularly empathetic. Was that not the case? So sensitivity is part and parcel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he needed to be empathetic to me being a one-dimensional villain. I was testing his empathy and he failed.
You know, I did talk to MrGirl after the show.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And he's still a surprisingly good sport.
Good.
Here's Edwin. Edwin has a crush on Joe and just thinks everyone's a pedophile, I think.
Yeah, the only other questions I would have would be about...
Oh, I thought he was being brought into the call.
No. Oh, should I bring him in?
Oh, I didn't know if he was
We could bring Edwin in also.
You got anything else, Xanadu?
Edwin's a good
The
guy.
only other
Yeah, he's a
I'd have
great
would be
guy.
about film and TV.
I enjoy his
about
content.
MrGirl,
I've watched
so.
a lot of it.
Oh, okay. You have something about film and TV?
In general, this has been a week or two ago. You really tore down on the concept of the monomyth.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
In general, and again, feel free to disagree with me.
Yeah.
But I tend to see the monomyth as kind of similar to how a haiku is in poetry. It's a form, and what you do with the form is what makes the beauty in it. I'm not saying you got to like all the Marvel movies or anything like that. That's silly. You can like whatever you like and don't like whatever you don't like.
A load in my mouth.
But it's the idea that the monomyth
Edwin, I'm going to DM you. Follow
form.
DP on
Hold on,
Twitter, and I'll DM you a link to the chat.
Sorry about that, Xanadu. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Just the monomyth itself, I think, is a useful storytelling form to get across interesting and fun stories.
I think they're good for kids. I think as an adult, it's junk food. I think it's okay. You can consume junk food all you want. They don't nourish me at all. At a certain point, the form is where the best experimentation is. That's why Lolita is as famous as it is. It's about an unreliable narrator who gives us accounts where we never know what's true and what isn't, and we need to parse out what bits are him and what parts are real, if anything. And that's clever. The story is very straightforward. There's maybe a dozen stories. It's the form that's interesting. There's infinite ways to tell a story.
Oh, and Edwin, tell me your Twitter handle. I can't remember. You said you got a load in your mouth. Come on, man.
No, he
Most
said he
people
has
don't think
food
it's
in his
food.
mouth.
A load of food.
He had a load of food.
A load of food. I got a load in my mouth, as we all say when we're eating.
Yeah.
Hold on, I got a load in my mouth.
But your point's well taken, Xanadu, and you're probably right, because they're the most popular movies on Earth. So.
Well, I don't think popularity is the only yardstick of good. That's ridiculous. But the I guess my point is, I would believe that there is form out there. There are stories that follow that form that even you could find enjoyment in, because
there's
there
plenty.
are so many stories that follow that form.
Oh, yes, there's plenty. There's plenty.
Okay.
Actually, it's the
Edwin,
most common story. In fact, I've been kicking around an idea of just doing like a docuseries of every single instance of the monomyth and calling it the only story ever told instead of the greatest story ever
I think that would take you a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be ridiculously difficult. Even just in film, if you're just talking about film, that's still a huge number of movies. If you're trying to incorporate novels and short stories into that, that's infinite.
Yeah, exactly. It would just be the big ones, the big parts, the Western canon, and then just select films that I would do, and it would be the only story ever told, just to,
Edwin,
and you wouldn't be able to
jump
unsee
into
it.
general chat, and I'll bring you in.
That was the one little bane of contention I had about movies the other night, and so that's everything I got.
Thanks for sharing, Xanadu.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good night.
That was Xanadu, everybody.
Let me bring in this person.
Devil's Advocate. This one's for Vito.
Edwin totally said load.
Nice.
Hey, Devils, do you hear us? He hung up.
Oh, he left. What a
Cold feet.
fucking
A dick.
coward.
Cold feet.
I was expecting to be challenged for my horrible views.
Let's go.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. We're just bringing on callers. Right?
Yeah, we're bringing on callers. It's going to be fresh every time.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. How are you?
All right, Joe. So this is like mostly directed at you because you're the man of the hour, I guess. I completely agree how you handled the conversation. I have multiple opinions on MrGirl since I had followed his whole relevancy, his coming up to relevancy when he streamed on with Destiny, and then he did that weird strip club hypothetical with Bosch. I watched that as well. I think I want to see if you agree with this. I think what MrGirl does is that he tries to put these concepts or these disgusting concepts like pedophilia and rape, and he makes it into like a spectrum where all of us are on these so-called spectrums. That everybody's a pedophile. It's just that some pedophiles are more pedophiles than others. I disagree with that because I don't think everybody's a pedophile.
Yeah, it's a borrowed trick too. It's a borrowed trick too. You're right. He does that. The human sexual continuum, borrowed by Kiersey, who fudged his numbers and created that kind of framework to view things through.
Yeah, and he, if he puts all of us on this spectrum, then he starts saying that, hey, we shouldn't really dehumanize these people because, technically, you're kind of one of them. And dehumanizing is bad. Yeah. And the least pedophile is just as bad as the most extreme pedophile. Yeah. And if you get offended by pedophilia, well, you're just virtue signaling. Right. This is all just a performative action. You really don't care about this because you think about little girls just as much as me. And that's bullshit. Yeah. He did the same thing with rape with on Destiny stream. He said, listen, all sex is has some form of rape in it. And some rape is just worse than others. So he does this continually, and he makes you feel like if you're against this, you're a hypocrite. Nobody wants to be seen as a hypocrite. And when you have chat saying, every time you are disgusted by these things, saying, virtue signaler, he's hiding something. So it's a pretty good formula for the retard. I'm sorry,
it's very old though. It's very old. It's used on everything. It's very old. It was like sometimes it was worthwhile. Like the gay community, if there was a big time homophobe, you could say that was a giveaway for them being gay, and you would say, well, don't you ever get hard when you're watching a man and a woman together, and do you like the cock being big? That old Ron White joke, for example. And then showing that there's a little gay in you too. Well, that's going to be the same means by which pedophilia is going to gain legs, because we've never grown out of that form. We still fall for the trick because it's a good one. It's the false dichotomy. It's the moving target where you transform the hunter into the hunted and the target into the targeted, and you just kind of play musical chairs with the context. You naturalize the unnatural, and you unnaturalize the natural, and then you blend the spectrum as to which is which and win.
All right, I totally agree. One thing I wanted to also mention is that the way a lot of people are saying, you were too aggressive. You came in guns blazing. The thing about MrGirl is watching at least maybe 3 hours of him talk, which were probably the cringiest 3 hours I've had. He likes to manipulate people in conversations. He constantly tells you that you're not being honest with him. That
I do want to bring in a pro MrGirl person too, and we have
eventually we will, but let's go.
He's already here, folks.
No, if you guys want me to go,
Edwin's
that's fine.
here.
I just want. I'll end it with this. I think you did a great job. Keep it up, and fuck pedophile sympathizers. And if that's performative, suck my dick. And hopefully you're of age when you do it.
Hopefully, but
of
if you're
age. Not. Cisgender, non-related, and alive.
No.
And alive.
Come on, we're being picky now. No, I'm kidding.
Edwin, you're in the group right now.
There are no moral arguments
Unmute
against
yourself,
necrophilia.
buddy.
We know this.
It's a victimless crime.
He has a load in his mouth.
It is a victimless crime. Who's the victim? They're already dead.
Yep.
Hi, Edwin.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, I'll admit I read it wrong. You didn't. You had food in your mouth, not a load.
I had a load of food. I guess you know.
It's really weird that you thought he said he had a load in his mouth.
Well, is it? Anyway,
that's a Freudian slip in your brain there.
Tell me about your mother.
So you know it's funny because I heard Joe earlier mention the whole Quentin Tarantino thing where he puts the middle of the movie at the beginning, and yesterday I kind of came in when Joe was like basically not well, I guess saying have you ever watched child porn or not, blah blah blah, and then he left. So I kind of came in at the end of the movie, and then
you did.
So I didn't really know what to make of it. I was like, oh damn, he got him good. And so then I rewinded. I was like, oh I see. He like gave him a bad vibe from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, did who approached who for the interview?
I did. I approached
okay.
MrGirl.
I guess he wasn't familiar or something.
Well, you know, it was over a month ago that I booked him, so he had time to do his research and everything. And you know, I told MrGirl the MrGirl makes superficial arguments that I think most reasonable people can agree with. And I approached him that way, you know. But then there's like the surface level. Everyone would fuck a 15-year-old. Everyone would go to a strip club with 14-year-olds. You know, that kind of stuff. That's where he kind of...
Vito, your leg is shaking. Are you all right?
Sorry.
I've never seen you exercise that much.
By the way, Edwin, we have Vito here. He is like he'll and Vito's...
I ate some mushroom chocolate earlier, and it always makes me shake my leg.
Nice.
Like every single time. I don't know why.
And you know what? Vito has known MrGirl since high school.
Yes.
And he thinks we handled it very poorly. And
That's a joke. When I was a young 12-year-old.
Yeah.
God, that would be a revelation, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It would explain your Stockholm syndrome.
Who would explain everything? Yeah, it's all Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Cleaning up his messes. He really made a poor showing for himself. I'll tell you where he went wrong.
Cleaning up all kinds of messes.
This is where he went wrong.
Sticky
when
loads.
there was a
Where'd he go wrong?
pushback, and he blamed Ben and Billy to try to separate the pack.
That never happened.
When he tried to do that, that moment
we
when
all
he
looked
was
at
like,
each other like, no.
Yeah, they're not gonna have that. When he was like, that's chutzpah. He was like, yeah, the three.
What, he
of
tried to get you guys to like back off? He tried to.
No. What he tried to do
He
was
said,
to get
Ben,
the
muzzle
three-headed
your
monster.
dog.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, "Hey, you guys gonna watch this guy or what?" Like,
yeah.
Oh.
It's like, "Hey, I'm the guest here."
Trying to do that. That was dumb. It was.
Which
would
okay,
work
look.
maybe on
Also,
children.
for me, like from the spectator point of view, I was kind of left like, yo, I want a rematch because I did like your analysis, Joe. I was like, I feel like you got him on the dot because I see like the kind of Andy Kaufman in him as well. Like, I feel like he's playing it a lot, you know. Like it
Joe
can't be that much.
sees some of his shtick in MrGirl.
Yeah, and I've seen some of Joe before as well, and so I'm like, oh, he sees some of like when he says, "I see some of myself in you," kind of thing. I was like, oh, this is why it's like, too bad he didn't.
That's why it's so personal.
Yeah, he didn't want to own up to that.
He wouldn't see the manipulation. You know you're capable of manipulation.
So let's be honest, though. Edwin knows Joe because Edwin used to cover Onision all the time, right?
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing this really epic like video of Joe interviewing Onision, and it was like so fucking awkward. I was like,
I mean, like Joe was still filming videos with Onision long after Billy stopped doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't, I knew him in real life.
After the humpening?
Yes. Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, up to the humpening, yeah, exactly.
The humpening,
Did Onision do anything wrong? I never followed the Onision.
He didn't do anything
story.
illegal, I don't think.
Yeah, he's...
Didn't he have, like, someone come live with him or something?
Yeah,
he had a...
Like a fan?
We should ask MrGirl.
Oh God, he's not on here, but
MrGirl
I will say,
is
as far as the evidence suggests, he let a young woman live with him when she was underage, and then after she was legal, he hooked up with her. As far as I know,
kind of weird.
Yes, it is weird.
Very.
It reads like grooming, but
Yes.
I don't know. I guess.
Yeah. Well, when you have a friend first and then you hear things about
is
them,
hard,
you
yeah.
have to verify. You have to verify. And I never got satisfying answers from Onision, so we just kind of like let it go at that. I said I don't know what kind of person you are, and you won't be honest at this point, even though I've known you off camera, and so we got to part ways. And he's like, yeah, I need to focus on other things right now. So we weren't buddies anymore.
There is an awesome video, though. It's a horror movie concept where at the end, Billy and Joe have sex to avoid being killed by the movie monster.
That was Billy's idea.
Filmed by It wasn't Onision's idea?
It was Billy's, and it was unsimulated sex. No.
But it's him being the bottom.
Yeah, he was, of course.
Yeah, Billy's like
not at the
naked,
top.
like getting drilled by Joe behind. He's like, oh, God, I hate this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it happened.
Is this on YouTube?
No, it was a Patreon thing for Onision.
Yeah.
Onision literally filmed it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's so because it's like this weird old school horror movie premise, and like they had their friend Anastasia play like the hot girl that was like everyone to have sex with, but then all of them were virgins. And then the movie monster came and only killed the virgins. And then they were like, oh, shit, we're the only virgins left, so we must have sex so they can't come and kill us. So at the end,
That's pretty good.
Wait,
That's a good concept. It's pretty funny.
Did Billy and Joe get groomed into thinking that they were going to have sex with Anastasia, and then they ended up
in the movie,
fucking
yeah.
each other?
Not in real life.
Dude, he's a pro, man.
Yeah. No, yeah, in the movie, that's the entire point, that they're all virgins and they think they got, duped into going there, and they get killed off one at a time. And it wasn't Onision's idea. And this was the problem for not having any social media or anything. I didn't know that I was in the cabin with like literally the devil, the most hated man on earth. And
really?
He was already hated at that point?
Yeah.
I was invited to the thing with the hot tub that smelled like poo-poo.
Oh, yeah, that was in Yakima.
Yeah, I was invited out to that, and I was like, and I never went.
Because you knew something I didn't know.
You know what,
I just
though?
knew him as Greg, and then James. He changed his name to James.
It's James now.
Yeah, he was even at my 30th birthday party. It was like, oh, that's Greg, and then he was like, James now, and then he was shaking everybody else. I was like, that's odd. He was like,
I remember
James
when Billy
now.
told me that. They're like, Onision told me his name was James the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess is the rebrand. Is that a good move at that point? I guess.
Should we bring in another caller? Let's do it.
Should have changed the screen name.
Someone else. Oh no, they left. Let's do it one more time. We give them one more. Oh, you loser!
That's 3 times.
I thought it was a Roblox character for a profile. Oops.
Dank Drill. Hey, Dank.
Hey, Dank Drill.
Danky. You guys callers are on point today.
Yeah, a couple of really good ones. Yeah.
This is why I hate doing callers. I used to try and do like a call-in show. It's just like a nightmare.
You know what might help?
We've had good ones.
If I play the intro to our old call segment, I think I'm going to do it.
There's always going to be a Joe to mess things up for you.
Warning, Joe is a piece of
I want to know.
See the picture of Onision.
The best sandwich.
The best sandwich I know is the Italian sausage and pepper hoagie. And this is a stupid fucking question, you fucking piece of shit. Get the fuck off the phone.
I heard China there's something leeches up their asses now. Okay, I might commit suicide.
There was a guy that pretended to commit suicide on the show one time. He's like, okay,
Nice.
I commit suicide.
I go
Ben.
kill self now.
Are you mad at me?
Yes. Ben, are you mad at me? Yes. Yeah, that happens a lot.
So Dank Drill is out.
Yeah, Dank Drill, Gorn. Let's do...
When did you guys stop being drunken for the show, or what happened?
Oh, I'm drunk right now.
Yeah, Ben's clearly drunk.
Okay.
You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
took
like,
mushroom chocolate.
And you ate a mushroom.
My
Chocolate.
vocabulary
I'm
has...
microdosing.
Hello.
Hello.
Senora, welcome.
Oh, I feel welcome. This has been a beautiful show today, by the way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to call in and I don't know, talk about that interaction with MrGirl. I think a lot of people are saying like Joe went too hard, but I think I don't know. I think he did good by like calling that out. Well, he's kind of, well, I don't know. I think like Joe's strategy is that he pretends that like he's kind of like a third. I don't know. He's like a wait. Like, how do I put this? Like, he's not talking
He's the
about
instigator on the outside.
Right, yeah. Like he's looking from the outside
Occasionally
in.
chiming in to try and prod something out of a guy.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's smart. Like just like letting that rip because I've seen him before like on other debates and like I don't know. He like all his arguments always end up like advocating for like normalizing pedophilia. That's all of them always lead up to that.
Do you agree with that, Ben? You made a face when he said that.
Oh no, I was reading something else. I'm sorry. No.
Okay. What do you think, Vito?
Do I think all of his arguments are about normalizing pedophilia? I'd say all his arguments about pedophilia involve the idea that it's not so abhorrent, I guess. I don't know.
Walk
I don't
on
think he says
eggshells
that
a little
it's
harder,
common.
Vito.
Well, no, but I don't think. I think he says hemophilia is common. I don't think pedophilia is that common. But again, we said it's what 2%, maybe. We don't know. 'Cause the numbers are all bad.
Yeah. What do you think, Edwins?
The question is just, what do you treat? How do
Of
you
what
treat the idea-
population? The American population or what?
The statistics are really bad because how do you know? Like, where do you run a
yes,
study?
Yes, and I also agree that just because you don't know all of the stats doesn't mean you err on the side of, well, there's way more necessarily.
Yeah, I don't agree with the way he frames it. Like basically, you like, yeah, because of stats, you probably thought of it or whatever. It's like he tries to get you to agree with him on like such a weird like, hey, yeah, you would probably bang a 16-year-old if she was in front of you, right? Like it's okay in most states it's legal. He said that. It's like, oh.
No, I don't think he said, like, I don't think he's ever said, like, it would be morally okay for you to have sex with a 15-year-old. Because the whole point is that it's not. But it's not okay for you to have sex with a 16-year-old because you as an adult are in a position of power and they do not understand. You just have so much power over a 16-year-old. I don't even think, honestly, you should have sex with, like, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old. I mean, I'm willing to say, okay, at some point, we got to let you jump over the line. But they're dumb as fucking hell. Their brains aren't finished developing. They don't exactly know relationships and consent. And I think MrGirl would agree, like, try not to fuck young people because they're just dumb as hell and easily manipulated. And that's the reason why it's a problem.
Not because they're not sexy.
He did an interview today
that's
with...
basically it. It's saying, hey, you might think that 15-year-old is sexy. You might even be some psychopath that thinks that 8-year-old is sexy. But just because even if you're instilled with this idea that they're sexy, the reason you don't do it is because you as a human animal can make decisions using your brain that are morally correct.
That's the problem. Where he shed a light and where he just laid the groundwork for a new thought is he said, instead of that thought that you used to have, that, nope, not even thinking about it, 15, get out of my head, get out of my sight, he's saying, it's okay, acknowledge it. That's the problem here, that we're not acknowledging it. No, that's not how you solve the problem.
What is the issue? Well, acknowledging it what? Privately to yourself?
Exactly, or like he does publicly. It shouldn't be something that people. It's good that it was a taboo.
Let me do a little pivot because I was watching. He was interviewing Sky Williams earlier today, and he was kind of arguing that a platform like Discord should maybe ID people because it's sort of a breeding ground for pedophiles, something along those lines. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that because, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird to like.
I agree with that.
You agree that should happen?
I think all social media platforms should be 18+.
He kind of was stating that like
I see no value in having children on TikTok, on Twitter, or on Facebook. Whatever amount of enjoyment they're getting out of it, or it's a fun novelty, or we can advertise to them, and none of it is offset by the fact that it is just damaging to them. And it's just we have no way to prevent these kids from being exploited in any meaningful way.
I will say, like, I'm almost 41 years old.
The way we have it.
Hold on, though. I will say, like, I'm almost 41 years old, and when the internet was like an early thing at like 15, 16 years old, I was talking to adults I was flirting
Yes.
The way.
I was sex.
Okay,
I
hold
was
on.
sex chatting.
Oh, Penguin days?
Absolutely. That's the problem.
Vito, you said a mouthful at one point, and I want to address it.
Go ahead.
You said we don't have any protective measure to defend against bad actors in that space because we're allowing it to all comers. What we do have is the very thing MrGirl is trying to destroy. We have a culture that's hostile to the idea that he says isn't helpful, but we have another thing he's trying to destroy. The fact that it's wrong to think a 15-year-old is attractive. That's the stigma he is implicitly trying to remove constantly. It is the best defense against the proliferation of this problem you're talking about.
I'm gonna make the argument that I don't think it is the best defense.
Okay.
Huh.
I mean, what is it doing to effectively stop the exploitation of minors, which we're seeing constantly? Like, I don't
think it would get worse under your
anything,
regime. I think it would. Under you and you guys, what you want having naturalized, I think
guys.
you and you guys. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a movement. There's a movement to brewing. It's very new, but it's brewing.
I think the argument is that it's not even that like we're hostile to pedophiles, because we're not hostile to real pedophiles. We're hostile to like an imagined idea, like of man, if there's a pedophile here, I'd cut his fucking head off. Okay, we know that does nothing.
We're talking about
and maybe-
self-policing. We're talking about something.
The only thing that does is a guy who is a pedophile. He goes, shit. If they find out I'm a pedophile, they're gonna cut my fucking head off. So I'm gonna keep it buried in the closet. I'm not gonna bring it up to my therapist. I'm not gonna try and find help. I'm just gonna hide away. That's the argument.
Well, no. One of the arguments is that there's, fortunately, very few pedophiles when it comes down to it. In the grand scheme of things, they are a extreme minority, as far as we know. What happens when you listen to MrGirl is all of a sudden, where there was no thought there, or there was just a, nope, not thinking it, not doing it, there was all of a sudden a, it's okay. Yeah, 15 is okay.
They are still. Do you think pedophiles just stop thinking about it and like MrGirl suddenly is letting these pedophiles be like, no,
by clinical definition, pedophiles can't stop thinking of it.
I think there's a social for people that are prone to this thought, and maybe the term is useless, especially if we start using arbitrary terms like 6 months of continued thought. I don't know. Do you stop for breakfast? What happens? That's useless. But when you're getting down to the meat and potatoes of the case of whether or not self-policing works, or saying no and suppressing a thought and suppressing an urge, if that is something that works, I think it does. I think it does. I think taboos work. I think saying no and being a little bit of a strict, church lady about it sometimes works too. And I think that's why we have so many new taboos for that. Except it's
we're also
shifts.
being extremely strict church ladies is kind of the problem, where a 19-year-old dates a 17-year-old and Keemstar makes a video about how he's preying on minors, and I'm like, all right, come on, buddy. They went to high school together.
Yeah. That's where we need to loosen it.
We need to strike a balance.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the thing is, I don't think anyone's saying that we have to say like, hey, pedophilia is cool. It's the new rock and roll.
Eventually, that'll be the talk. Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
I think it will.
I don't think we're moving in that direction.
I think it will.
I don't think so either, man.
Yeah.
Give it 25 years.
No,
Give
because
it 25.
Because I think even more now, it's swung the other way. It was more acceptable, 80s, 70s, and 60s.
Yeah.
See, I think I see where Vito's coming from, in the sense that he thinks there's a bit more, too much self-policing, like the cancellation kind of thing, right? Like it gets so extreme and so convoluted.
Yeah.
So
especially what we're doing it along the lines of. But I'm saying we draw the line where MrGirl said we shouldn't. Where he said
yeah,
15
exactly.
That's where we draw.
And also, like, I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
He was kind of arguing like the company should have more responsibility, as opposed to people that can't control their urges when, like, minors, like 16, 15-year-olds are dressing so sexy kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know about that, man. Like, at the end of the day, if it's an adult flirting with a 15-year-old, I don't care how hot she is, an adult shouldn't be fucking flirting with that,
Exactly.
But yeah,
I guess my stance is, and this is I think what MrGirl speaking to is, I look at a pedophile and I go, this is somebody with a mental illness. And I instinctually, as a filthy lefty, go, well, guys with mental illnesses, I feel bad for them and I want them to get help.
Yeah, you're
okay.
here.
It doesn't matter that what they want is terrible and horrible. If you said, I dream about murdering people all the time, I dream about, drowning kittens, I'd go, well, have you done it? No, thank fucking God. And I have base enough sympathy that I want you to get help for what's going on with you. And that kind of sympathy, people have told me, is a waste of time, and that it's, you should just treat these guys like criminals and fuck them. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I want people to get help. And I know. The question is that just naivete? Because some doctors will say there is no help. They never change their desires, no matter how many of them we address. They're, my thing is like, well, let's say that feeling, bad for them as mental illness victims. Let's say we get them treatment. Let's say, 9 out of 10 still go on to offend. If we stop 1 out of 10 offenders by taking a softer approach, is that bad or good? And you're going to say, well, taking a softer approach leads to 100 new ones. So it's a very complicated scenario.
Yeah, we would have to first seek to understand it. And I think that's what we're lacking. And I don't think MrGirl is clarifying it either. He's trying to naturalize it. That doesn't help us understand it. It's good to put it on our plate and say, listen, this is how anchoring works. This is how trauma works. This is how the repeated cycle of abuse works. And really getting down to the meat and potatoes of that, because there's scant literature on it, and it's being so convoluted and suppressed, the stuff that there is on it, that it's ridiculous and everybody's in the dark. The only thing they can do, like it's a boogeyman, shoot it. That's all we can do, because we don't know anything about it.
That's why I value what MrGirl is doing, is that we aren't having very real conversations about it. And maybe he has the wrong take, as you claim.
He does.
But at least he has a take. The only take I see these days is the right wing going, hey, did you know James Gunn molests children? And I go, what the fuck are you talking about? And they go, see, he had some tweets of 20 jokes that he made, and a picture of him at a costume party dressed as a pedophile priest. Everybody's a groomer and a pedophile, and they're everywhere, and they're all trying to get your kids. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's the way to talk about this either.
Well, MrGirl is saying it, except he's saying it in the positive too. He's saying it at the same time. He's saying everybody's a hemophile, but it's a good thing. So that's where they get agree.
So, Call of Cringe. What did you want to say while you're here?
I just want to make a question. Basically, I feel like what this MrGirl guy is kind of saying is that shame, or as a society, we've kind of moved past the idea of shame as an emotion, that it's a negative thing. But I think it's actually is a valuable thing to have, because you should feel shame about certain things. And I feel like the idea that he's saying that we should understand pedophiles and stuff is fine, but where he goes too far is saying that we shouldn't shame them for their ideas. We should be accepting to it. That's my kind of gist of it.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you call it? The question is, do you need to have shame for an action which doesn't actually harm anybody else? If I dream about fucking clowns, that's the stupidest thing in the world. Do I got to feel bad about it?
Well, you fucking a clown wouldn't actually affect the clown, but you fucking a child would negatively affect the child. So yes, you should feel ashamed about.
I fuck clowns all the time, and they're.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
disproportionately
affected right now.
Yeah.
If I think every day I go to work and I just hate my fucking boss, and I go, you know what? I just think about killing this guy, stabbing this guy, shooting this guy.
So
should I
would
feel
you
bad?
say that
Should I feel bad about that?
If everyone went around thinking that we should kill each other, that would be a good thing, or should you feel ashamed for thinking that because it's a bad thing?
Well,
that's what he's saying. He's saying everyone's thinking about fucking a 15-year-old. So if he's saying that,
I want to kill a whole
I mean,
lot of people.
I do too. I actually go to therapy because I have mental illnesses of that nature. But
yeah, well, my therapist told me, just do it, you pussy, and they bought me a gun, and what did not help, and I got a new therapist.
Whoa.
But
I mean,
it's a joke.
I was hoping to get it's cool that we have Vito here, kind of, showing both sides. I wanted a real MrGirl fan
I can play that up if you want.
No. I don't want you to play it up. I want a legitimate one. So
Well, it's
somebody do it
interesting
without
your chat
saying.
seemed
Okay,
mad
well,
at
you
you.
can.
It was
I
interesting
can leave here.
comment.
That was basically my question.
Well, thanks.
But thank you for having me. I've been watching since episode 1 and never really.
That's
interacted in any
amazing.
previous
Oh my
so
God, I was
thank
so
you.
much younger and more handsome back then.
Great call, Caller Cringe. Thank you. What were you saying, Vito?
I was saying that the question is, do you need to be ashamed of thoughts rather than actions? If you have a shameful thought, do you need to what's that word? Flagellate yourself over it.
Self-flagellation.
Self-flagellation.
Yeah.
If I think about strangling a dog, not that I do, but I mean, of course I do. Should I feel bad? Because obviously doing that action is a bad thing. Or can I go, me as a human being, I'm going to have fantasies that are nothing I would actually do in real life. I would never kill anybody. I would never drive my car off a cliff, as much fun as it might be. I would never open fire on a crowd of people. But you think about it.
I think the answer would be no, because you know that you would never do it. However, when you fear that you might, then there should be shame, right?
There should be shame if you know that you might harm a child.
If you think that you could
But
do
I'm
it, you should
saying,
be ashamed.
isn't it very possible that there are pedophiles who go, I would never harm a child because it is so against every moral fiber in my body as a man with a, who understands consent and whatever else.
Is there such a thing as that person?
I think there absolutely
Of course.
Yeah.
In every possible
I thought that's what he was
combination.
asking. I was trying to repeat the question.
In every possible combination.
Well, I'm
of
saying,
course
does that guy need to feel bad if in his head or if he's jerking off the lolly or whatever else, he goes, well, I wish I could fuck a real kid, but I know it's wrong, so I'm not going to. Does that guy need to feel shame? Is he inherently broken? Or is it like, I'm a human being. We're all a little fucked.
If that's where it stops, and it just stops there, who's to say? Is he definitely not going to touch a kid?
Well, I think MrGirl is.
Definitely. This
and he
hypothetical
says
guy?
no.
Definitely? I don't
I
think
think
thoughts
Mr.
work
Girl
that way.
says-
I think
I
thoughts...
do think they.
I think
for
thoughts...
some people they do.
Yeah, and I think for a lot more, thoughts, a lot of the time, especially emotionally charged thoughts, lead to action in some form.
I honestly
I don't know
think,
if I'm on board with that in every
thing.
scenario.
There are so many people right now who are just trapped online infinitely. They're afraid of human contact. I think that a lot of people are living in fantasies of all types.
Yeah.
That they will never act upon. Even fantasies that are perfectly possible of fulfilling, having sex with a woman or getting a transgender lady to peg you, whatever else, and they're content to just fantasize about it. And I think it goes the same for pedophiles.
Yeah.
So I think
People
those
can-
guys, as long as they're not consuming actual child pornography, I'd go, yeah, you're fucked in the head, but you're not fundamentally broken as a human being. You can live a happy.
It's okay if you are, too. It's okay if I think you are. That's
Who
fine,
isn't?
too. Yeah.
But at that point, who isn't
That's the
broken?
point. That guy's broken. And I'll say it. I'll say that guy's broken.
Who is not?
I'll
is
say
my
I'm broken in a different way. I'm broken in better spots. Okay,
But
and
we
I'll
all-
say that,
we're
and that's
all
okay for me to say that. You see how you just kind of like move the pieces, and this is what this entire argument hinges on. It's just turning the targeted into the target, or
Well,
the
you're saying
targeter into the
nobody's
target.
perfect, but at what point are you so not perfect that you're intrinsically bad?
You can even call him intrinsically bad. It's okay. It doesn't help
Someone
him.
who has a pedophilic thought is intrinsically a bad person.
So I can say that to you. I think that's how free
don't
I am
agree
with my thought. You said it, you
But I
could
don't
do it.
agree with-
I think you can do it, but I can also say what I said. I think, and I can also, I think that's
No,
okay.
I'm trying to ask. Do you think anybody who has a pedophilic thought is fundamentally morally bad?
Not necessarily. That's the truth.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
All right. Okay.
Just
And I think we
fundamentally-
can
and by morally bad, I mean irredeemable. I don't think necessarily. I think. To
their dying day, they have pedophilic thoughts. Do they die in sin?
Um,
To their dying day, they have pedophilic.
Turn down your speakers.
Caller. Caller, turn off your speaker.
Hello.
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 Say what you want to say.
He hung up.
Say what you want to say. Say
Oh,
what
they
you
left.
need to. God damn it.
those thoughts, if they don't, if
Why are these people in general chat?
if they
They
don't
care-
benefit
they
you,
care-
you need to ditch them. I think
A
that
lot
should
of
be.
thoughts benefit me.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If this one, and you need help too. I think from what you've shown, you're not any better than most pedophiles. you know?
Stop.
I'm not any better than most pedophiles.
That doesn't mean. Does that mean that? Yeah.
But how bad is a pedophile? I don't even know because you won't tell me. You know, like how
Yeah.
bad is a pedophile?
Yeah, it's
Are they
a
the-
nebulous concept that we haven't quantified well at all. I don't believe it's innate, and I don't believe it's immutable. I believe it arises.
Of the worst people. You know, is a murderer worse than a pedophile?
Has he committed?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're both committed. If I murder a woman for money,
Why did the guy
have sex
murder?
with- for money? He's a robber. Gone wrong. No, not even gone wrong. It was a thrill killing, and then he robbed.
Who did he murder? Who did he touch? Shit.
I guess
it's all subjective.
Who
It's
did he
subjective,
touch?
right?
At
At the end of the day, it's all subjective.
He murdered a pedophile.
At the scale.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. What's your what did you want to say?
Okay, so first of all, Joe, or well, honestly, Ben, what was your opinion on how Joe was acting last stream? Because I wasn't there. Was he being like really aggressive in asking
He
Mr.
was very
Girl?
aggressive from the get-go, and I wouldn't have approached it the same way, but Joe approached it his way that he chose. So
Okay, and then so Joe, what would you like to see done with pedophiles? Because I think that's like really the important question. It doesn't really matter.
So when you say
the thoughts
pedophiles,
in
do you
between.
mean just anyone who's attracted to children, or do you mean like
Yeah, I
people
don't
who
really
have
care
actually
about the
harmed
semantic
children?
use of it. I'm just using layman. Anyone?
Well, here's the thing,
what,
though. There's
what a boomer would understand.
Would you not agree? There's a big distinction between people who have
I would
actually harmed
100%
children and people who just have the attraction.
I would 100% agree.
Okay.
But I'm talking about like medical pedophiles, like someone who can't.
That are seeking help, they should get help. They should
Yeah,
be given
okay.
help. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't really see the problem. Like, what's Mr. Girl advocating for? What was he pushing for?
Mr. Girl is, I
A
think.
turkey on every table and a child in every basement.
Yeah.
That's what he said. In the words of great FDR. FDR always comes up. Turkey in every pot. is what
Mr.
FDR
Girl's trying to shift the debate. He's trying to separate in people's mind's eye the difference between pedophilia, hebephilia, and ephebophilia, which I believe is fine. But then he's taking it a step further and saying the latter two are actually very natural and normal. And he's just pushing the Overton window ever so slightly to where we can all acknowledge that that's a baseline and that's okay. Now, what we choose to do with that, that's up to you. I'm just here to tell you it's okay. Now let's see where it all goes from here. And I'm going to say
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it is
I
okay.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the argument that children,
I mean-
unfortunately, with the internet, are preyed upon more than ever before. But in terms of laws and states' laws and state protections, children have more protection now than ever before at any other period in time. And I think things will only get better from here. I don't anticipate some sort of backslide. And I see no evidence for any sort of backslide in terms of laws and legislation. I think we've drawn a
I
very
100%
clear line.
agree with that. I just
What's that?
think we should have enough sympathy in society for pedophiles or endophiles or whatever to realize that while we may not be that, we could have just as easily been born that, and we need to make it easier, not even just for pedophiles, but for everyone to like talk to a doctor or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, and this is not just for your
can't
benefit,
be
it's for the benefit
demonized.
of people you know. I'm going to make the argument that, humanizing someone with these thoughts, you never know. Someone might come to you, your brother, your father, a friend, and go, I've been having these horrible thoughts and I don't know what to do. And thankfully, you'll be in a position to hopefully find them help, as
Well,
opposed to
back in
I'm
the
gonna
day,
shoot you in the fucking head.
back in the day when someone came to someone and said that, they were like, "Well, just become a Catholic priest."
Yeah, they said we'll just get a job at the school.
Well, nowadays they can like
It's
chemically
true.
castrate you and stuff, and like get rid
Yeah,
of your
there are
libido.
some level of treatment.
With, like,
It's not the most effective, but honestly, what they teach, the most effective treatment for pedophiles has been risk avoidance strategies, where it's like, okay, you're a pedophile. Like, are there any playgrounds near you? Yes. Don't go to them ever. Okay? If you see a child and you start getting a thought, what are you going to do? I'm going to go home. And it's like, okay. Like, those are proven the best strategies for pedophiles, is just don't put yourself in situations where you're going to be around or have the ability to influence children. Do you have a job at school?
Unfortunately, though, for a lot of people, that's just not attainable. Like,
To not be around kids?
Go ahead. Devil's advocate.
yeah, there's kids everywhere. I mean, like, unless you're gonna be moving off to fucking Bakersfield, California, and go to where old people die. Like,
Honestly, in my world, I'm almost never around children ever. Like, almost never.
Next door to a school, and I have never interacted
I
with any of
don't.
those kids.
I don't have
Anyway.
kids of my own, and where I live, I have no family members, so I'm almost
well, I'm
never
sure you
around
drive
children.
and you see them on the street, right?
Well, I drive right by them. I'm in a car. I see them for like
Yeah,
10
exactly.
seconds.
Exactly.
It's
but
not
for
that-
a pedophile,
think a
they
pedophile
drive
sees
right
a
by
kid.
him and they're in
won't.
a car.
No.
A pedophile, they drive right by him, they're in the car, and they're thinking, instead of you thinking like, well, I'm going to go down to the bar.
That's not
They're thinking, I'm
necessarily
going to go
true.
just sit at the playground.
No, I don't think so.
I mean,
Or like-
there's a lot of dumb people in the
What if
world.
they
but I
live
think
in, like,
You're
more dense
fantasizing about a
city areas?
pedophile whipping out.
Or what?
Yeah.
What if they just have bad self-control? I mean, I
Well,
feel like
that
making it
can
more aware that
happen.
there's medical solutions, even so that way, like maybe a pedophile would want to come forward, but maybe they don't think they have the self-control. So knowing that there's a medical solution out there to maybe reduce their libido, so it would reduce their interest or whatever, because if it's an actual pedophile, then they have a sexual interest.
that's if they believe they're at risk of offending. Again,
I just
there's a
want
lot
to point out that
go ahead.
I just want to point out just for a second, because this is my show and I can derail it. This is 17-year-old me, and yes, you're all pedophiles
Oh,
for
man.
thinking what
I
you're
can't wait
thinking right now.
Can't wait
You're
to groom
gross.
that beautiful little
I'm
girl right
22.
there with
I turned
long
22,
silky
like,
hair.
earlier this month.
Oh, you're all disgusting. Anyway,
I'd groom it.
Stop.
My
I don't
girlfriend's
think.
my-
Look, I don't think the problem for pedophiles is driving around and they see a kid and they immediately get a boner. I think there's a lot more to it. It's avoidance strategies. I think to just keep them away from areas where they would expect. If you go to the shopping mall, don't dawdle. Don't go to the toy store. Don't fucking
It's also
hang out in the toy aisle.
harder for some people to sympathize too, because like when you do get a boner, you aren't necessarily thinking rationally all the time. For some people, some people don't have that self-control.
Been my thing.
Most
is that I'm like, I get boners on the internet looking at weird fucking shit. I'm like, thank God I'm not attracted to kids. But if somebody came to me and they said, oh, by the way, it's super fucking illegal to look at porn, and if you look at porn, it's bad, and you're like fundamentally broken, I'd be like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Well, I don't
just looking at.
I don't think we really disagree. If someone would have the self-control or thinks they have the self-control, I would prefer them to take that route. I think it's a multifaceted problem, and we need to, as a society, to protect kids, teach them about like body parts and sexual thing, like actual sexual education. And then we need to be more open about maybe what pedophiles are, or what a lot of other fucking things are, deviant behavior things that aren't necessarily a problem. But we also need to be open about the solutions for that, so those people who have that aren't scared to come forward. And I think we on online space are really closed off to a lot of these communities that just don't even fucking see this as an issue. Like, I didn't even know what an endophile was till this MrGirl shit came up. Like, I knew that
I
there
still
was
don't know what
maybe a
that
difference.
is.
Yeah, me neither,
Oh,
really. I
hebephile, you
just
mean?
group it all as pedophile, and I know that it's a bit different on ages.
I mean, it's more than a bit different, though. I mean, it's like like if you use the word pedophile as a catch-all, you're talking about someone who would like rape a baby all the way up until someone.
Well, I
who
mean,
would-
like, in casual conversation, I would use pedophile as a catch-all, but if I was coming on for like a super serious debate, maybe
Well,
I
let's
would
be
look.
clear.
Well,
Na-
definitely
nature,
I would.
Your natural instinct is to get a girl pregnant, and a girl becomes, fertile at the age of puberty.
That's
So a
your
guy
natural
being attracted.
instinct. What about a gay guy?
Well, they're broken, and we need to do something about it.
Oh my
But
God! Stop.
the point is that it's not unreasonable for a guy to naturally be attracted to another member of the human animal species that he can theoretically impregnate. That's the whole point of biology. But we have a society say, yeah, but just don't fuck her. Like, aim a little higher.
I personally think most people are a form of like bi or pansexual, but like it doesn't. Humanity has clearly shown time and time again that we can stick our dicks into many things for many reasons to not impregnate it, and it doesn't have to be human. Like, there's people who are oddly attracted to fucking cars, and that's the only thing they're attracted to for some reason.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
bring
know.
you out, Devil's Advocate. I appreciate you joining. We're gonna bring someone else in
All right,
here.
I just want to say I've been
Yes.
a big fan of you guys since I've been like in middle school. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's been awesome.
Does that mean I'm a pedophile?
No, it's just a groomer, dude.
If you are
Oh
attracted to
damn!
me.
Shit. Yeah. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's Sammy J. Hi, Sammy J.
Unless you got a boner when he said that, then you might be a pedophile.
You know what? Shh.
Hello, sorry I had myself deafened there.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's cool to be here. I'm streaming on my Twitch right now. Is that okay? Should I turn that off? Is that?
I mean, you might. What we say might get you banned from Twitch.
Oh no, I'm totally okay with that. I don't give a fuck.
All right, fine.
So, yeah, it's good to be here. So I just want to say, Joe, I feel like you've watched Zizek. Have you watched Zizek before?
No, I
You
haven't.
familiar with Zizek? Yeah, he talks a bit about meta irony, and he breaks it down really
Hold
well.
on. Hold on. Wait. Are you Canadian?
I might be Canadian. Yeah, what's going
Yeah,
on?
you just said a boot, and I'll tell you what, I can sniff you guys out so easily because I grew up right near the border, and you guys only have to speak like half a sentence, and I know you're Canadian. Anyway,
I like that, man. I like that
Go
there's some
on.
distinction between us because Canadiana is just this sad, broken thing, right? Like it's really sad. It's really pathetic.
Oh, it
how
is,
our
eh?
culture pretends to be different. It is, eh? Yeah.
Anyway,
Eh?
go on.
It's bad. It's not. It's not good. I don't
It's
like it.
not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Continue.
So yeah. Oh yeah. Well, basically, meta irony is a literary device, and during which time a person says something in a sincere way in a context where it's suggested what they are saying is insincere. Basically, it's designed in a way where nobody will really know if you're serious or not unless you're in the in crowd. And what is the in crowd? Well, there can be multiple at once, right? And it's possible for several of them to be wrong at once. Sometimes it's just the people making the content who really know what is being said, what the actual message is. And that message is usually kind of psychic if it's being implemented for a purpose in which it is to change society and change attitudes, kind of like what MrGirl is about, right? And I think that in general, that's kind of what I'm here to talk about is that and how, Vito, I think you're a man with divided loyalties. Would you say that's true?
No.
Well, I'm very loyal to anyone who's been loyal to me.
Okay. So loyalty is a good foundation for like friendship. Then it's kind of like
When
loyalty,
you
like,
say,
buy into
well,
my
you
narrative.
find yourself split when friends are arguing, I guess. What do you mean?
For sure. Like, well, when I mean that is kind of just like the loyalty thing is kind of just like buy into my narrative, buy into my energy. No matter what I'm putting out, no matter what people are saying, just buy that. There, loyalty is the most important. It's not honesty. It's not like call me on my shit if I'm wrong. Like, have you had conversations with MrGirl ever where you're just like, dude, like, what the fuck you like? Because I mean, some of the stuff he's saying, you've got to understand. Like, to anyone who's kind of got a sort of, I don't know, skeptical mind about his content, who doesn't just like lay down and say, oh, empathy, amazing, Like,
Well, I think
he's
I've
gonna look
said,
at
I
what
don't know
he's
if I
doing.
said it today or I said it yesterday, where he says stuff that I fundamentally disagree with. And I talk to him. We disagree. It's not like everything he says I'm 187 ride or
For sure.
die.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends. But in terms of him as a person, I do believe he is mostly honest and about what he's trying to achieve and what he's trying to do.
I think
he's
are
a very
so
careful
off
and
on that.
considerate person.
It's incredible.
Wait, what?
I
He's
mean,
incredible?
I think you're so off on that it's kind of like it stuns me a little bit. By the way, I really like your video, that Pepsi video you did, the protest.
Yeah, that one's
That was
old,
hilarious.
unfortunately. I got to do something
Yeah,
funny
I love
again.
it though. I
Been
love
a while.
It, though. It was really good.
So you think
Yeah.
that he's a deceiver and a trickster and a huckster?
Absolutely. Oh no, 100%.
Okay.
I've watched his
100.
content. I've kind of looked at him, and I genuinely, well, not 100% in the sense that, like, I can't know what's in the heart of another, Vito, obviously. But at the
Right.
same time, like, watching him and sort of just absorbing the content and getting an idea for, like, as someone who's, like, I'm an adult. I think most adults have been manipulated at one point. As someone who's been manipulated, as someone who understands what it's like to have someone kind of like say they mean one thing when they mean another, and then they mean the thing that you think they meant at the first, like if you've ever been gaslit, I feel like you have a pretty good understanding of how this kind of thing can work. And I see that kind of framework being applied to MrGirl and making a lot of sense, is sort of what I'm saying with that, right?
Well, here's the thing: is we're all manipulators in some way.
Oh, that's interesting. So there's a predator in all of us, right? Same argument. We're all manipulators. It's to some degree, right? Is that sort of like the every bit of communication with everyone is a manipulation? Like it necessarily?
No.
Dude, I'm
but
so
I think-
sorry when I hear you talk. I'm like, let's all go to the Leafs game, right?
I'm saying that even in an academic debate, an academic discussion, even shooting the shit with your friends, you are going to find ways to phrase things or give out ideas that are maybe more palatable to consume.
Well, just
You
because
know,
there's
we're
no
not- we're
objective
not
arrangement
raw,
of facts doesn't mean that there's
unfiltered.
conscious manipulation going on, Vito, does it?
Well, I would argue that on YouTube there's a lot of conscious manipulation, and that's kind
I
of
wouldn't disagree with
the
you.
whole
I wouldn't disagree with you
foundation
that there's a
of-
lot of it. No,
Well, I'm
you're saying
saying
it's
I don't
fundamental,
see-
though.
But I'm saying I don't see MrGirl being any more fundamentally manipulative than any other commentator on the internet, where there is a
Interesting.
level of performance. It is performative in a way.
But he calls other people performative, though, right?
Well, I would
Yeah, all the
honestly
time.
argue. I would honestly argue that he is more honest than the average YouTube commentator or whatever you want to call these types of people. I do think that he says takes that the other people would have or have thoughts and would just simply stray away from them. He goes, well, let's confront it. Let's get into it. But I can't claim the man is 100% a beacon of truth. I don't think
Of
anyone
course
is.
not. And I'm not saying he should be. I'm not saying he should be. And I don't think I've made that point at any
Right,
time.
but I don't
feel
know
like
how you're saying he's a manipulator and a liar. Where do you get that from?
Well, where I get that from is kind of like videos, for example, and like you've got to kind of let me lead here, because like if other people put out I'm a pedophile surrounded by different circumstances, I wouldn't feel the same way, right? But like
Okay.
videos like I'm a pedophile, and then kind of like doing the cuties. Well, he did the cuties review before that, right? I think that's the timeline, correct?
Right, but that's very important. The timeline.
Yeah,
the
of
timeline
course,
is
of
very
course, that's important, right? No, of course.
Yeah.
I was just getting my facts arranged there, Vito. I'm very excited.
Sure.
So yeah, so
I'm
the
not
thing,
being-
the thing
hold
that I
on,
think
let me
is-
be clear.
Sorry.
You
Yeah,
seem
please,
to think.
please.
Let me just slow down a second. You seem to think I'm being antagonistic towards you or trying to catch you in something.
No, I
I'm
don't.
not.
I don't at all. I was just
All right,
saying,
all right,
I was
okay.
just friendly, just being like, hey, I made a mistake there. You're right. I just getting my facts
Okay,
arranged. I'm
I
very
just
excited.
want to let you
That's
know
all.
I am going to try and
Oh
have
no,
an
I'm
honest
not.
conversation.
It's
Nice to
okay.
say to you.
It's okay to
Okay.
be sensitive. I get it. No, it's fine. Yeah, like I
Okay.
think like the thing with Vito, with MrGirl is kind of like, you put out a video like I'm a pedophile after the cuties review. You encourage people to check out TikToks of girls. He would probably say that that's a joke, but I bet a lot of people who like are minor attracted hear this said ironically and probably almost register it as post irony. It's almost like I'm arguing that the effect of his content, regardless of his intention, he might as
No.
well.
Can I ask a
be
question real
manipulating.
quick? What do you mean
Yeah,
when
sure,
he
what's
says
up?
to check out TikToks of girls?
He said during that video, did he not? There's a lot of something. I'm
You mean the
paraphrasing a little
cuties
bit.
in the cuties
The
review?
cuties review. Yes. So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. And you're saying, did he make a joke like you should watch this and beat off to it, or what?
He said it again, meta ironically, in a situation in which the context would suggest perhaps that he's insincere, although I don't think that's even obvious, and in which the sort of and in which what he's saying is sincere. Like he's got that blank look, Joe, like you point out, looking at the camera, and it's like, again, dare me to say I'm daring you to say he's joking.
Well, let me
And
say
it's
this about the cuties review, and I think it's
Yeah,
a
sure.
thing, and I'm not saying it's necessarily your interpretation, but where a lot of people get confused by the cuties review is that it is a mixture of honest thought sprinkled in with a couple lighthearted jokes to kind of go, yes, it's uncomfortable what we're talking about, and let me lighten the mood a little bit with a little bit of irony, or oh, look at how hot that one is. And some people were kind of unable to differentiate between when he changes those tones. And I'm not going to say, I don't know, maybe he could have made it more obvious. It felt very obvious to me, but maybe it's because I know him more.
Yeah, I'm not trying to tone police here, by the way. That's not my intention.
No, but I'm wondering if what he said about TikToks, I don't remember what it was. The only thing I remember saying about TikToks, and this has been a theme, is that he is very concerned about TikTok. He has an entire video like TikTok is grooming your kids or perverting your kids or something. He does not like TikTok. Yeah, he has a video called TikTok is grooming your kids. It is 6.5 minutes long.
He does, you are right, sort of almost like he's writing a dishonest essay. State takes from the opposite side of what to me is like understanding kind of like the framework through I look at it, right? The framework that I think makes the most sense. Like to me, when he does that kind of thing, it's basically like what I would do if I was writing an essay, right? Like people who disagree with me about the prevalence, about how great it is that X is happening, say X, say Y. But the answer to that is, like this. And that I think is kind of what's going on there, man. Like, I think like I understand why someone looks at it and projects their own good intentions onto him. That is him taking advantage of the empathy that you have for him, in my opinion.
I guess I want to know, like, so, do you have any other examples other than this TikTok line that we can't isolate?
Well, I can just talk the whole time. I mean, I'm happy to do that. I'm sure there's other people in line, but yeah, sure, I'm happy to give other examples. I think one.
Yeah, well, no, I think this is a valuable conversation. Do the hosts disagree?
I don't disagree.
It's very good.
Go ahead, take the time.
So I'll say this, right? Like one of the kind of things to keep in mind is I'm not going to use like a direct example of that. I'm going to kind of move on and try and answer your question at the same time. But let me know if you think this is pivot. He did an interview with Vosh. You guys familiar with that interview with Vosh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of that interview, he's basically like forcing Vosh, and I'm gonna try and avoid saying anything, Ben. I don't want to put your. I saw your face during the last stream. I saw the agony. I just want to say like. In terms of like the Vosh interview, he's trying to sort of like force him to answer questions that, again, he's putting him in like a hell of a box, right? In a sense, it's like, what do you think in this hypothetical world where this crazy thing is happening?
I do not
What
like
do you
his
think would be your
hypotheticals.
preference? No, his hypotheticals are absolutely false. His hypotheticals are designed to make the argument, again, that there is a predator in everyone. He wanted Vosh to give a specific number so that he could say, oh, that's your preference then, right? He got really disappointed. You can almost see it on his face when he failed to get that answer out of Vosh. It was really interesting to see that. It looked a lot like the narcissist that I've had in my life failing to confront me on something.
I don't think he was trying to get Vosh's. It wasn't the question, what do you think the average is for society? Not for you.
Well, actually...
But doesn't that speak to what, like, your subjective opinion on what you think the average is for society?
I mean, I have an opinion
There's
on it.
layers
It doesn't
to
mean
this
it's
video
my
that I think
opinion?
you are purposefully not seeing, in a sense. Like, I think
What's
you're
your opinion?
purposefully kind of like
What do I
against
think
it
the average
almost.
age that people are attracted to is?
Yeah.
In
Yeah, you
terms
wanna
of
honestly
body
answer that
type?
question and...
I'll answer
Sorry?
it. Probably like 18. Probably 17, 18-year-old girl as
It's a
the
very safe
ideal.
answer.
That's a very safe answer. And I think if you honestly
that's
feel
my
that way, I
honest
believe you.
belief.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah, I
going to
believe
say
you.
you're lying. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that. No.
And I'll
I
even
certainly
say
believe you.
that I don't think that does reveal anything about me, because as I've said, I really do like the bodies of older women. Not elderly women, but like
I
a
agree
very
with you.
well-toned.
I agree with you, but I don't think Mr. Girl does. And I think Mr. Girl would then, if you said 18, try to argue you down, right? He's trying to have that discussion where he makes other people look like they are either like liars or virtue signalers the moment they take like a very, very strong stand against something like that. Like,
but
for
this
example,
is the same thing I was arguing too with Joe, is that you're going to tell me it's insidious manipulation on the part of Mr. Girl. I'm going to say he honestly believes it and may just be misguided.
And I say
Like,
either way, he's not worth listening to.
I completely, Joe hits it on the money there, right? Because the thing is like, man, I'm a materialist. I'm a communist, man. I care about the effect shit has on people. I don't care about the ideas behind it. I don't care if pedophiles are born or made. I don't give a fuck. It does harm to people.
It's not.
You understand?
All right. Well, I'm going to say, well, it does matter because even if he's wrong on a subject, let's be clear. This is not the only subject that Mr. Girl talks about. He talks about all sorts of other subjects.
It's how we gain notoriety, though, right?
Well, I mean, but
why do you think I'm talking about this? No one's followed me yet on Twitch, right?
Well,
like, it's about
Again, this was the tragedy I talk about. Is this man's made very thought-provoking, and I would say again, honest, valuable content. And the only way he jumps to prominence is everybody just wants to talk about this pedophile shit. And he goes, well, if that's all you guys want to talk about, let's go for it. So I guess all I want to say
you
is...
said the issue is very fascinating to him and important, and I've seen him choose to talk about it.
Obviously it is fascinating. They tried to destroy his entire life over a movie review.
Who's they?
That is interesting. A lot, the critics who came at him, a lot of other commentators on YouTube. Yeah, mostly other YouTube commentators said, well, we have a villain of the week. It's this Mr. Girl guy. And they made
that
hundreds
kind of brings
of
it into
videos
counterculture, cancel culture, doesn't it? And so I have a question for you. Do you think cancel culture is neither like negative nor positive, but it just sort of like it is what it is, and sometimes it's bad and sometimes it's good, or do you think it's always bad? Because I would argue
think it's always
Mr. Girl,
bad.
it's a good thing. You think it's always bad? Interesting.
I'm going to answer your question. I think cancel culture is bad if it's based on a falsehood or an exaggeration of harm.
I agree.
So if you cancel someone for something they A, didn't do, or B, the amount of harm they caused is exaggerated, then that's unfair. If they have legitimately caused
I think the amount of harm that
harm,
Mr. Girl does
then
with his
cancel.
takes are legit.
I think you would need to demonstrate
I would
it
agree with your
some way.
definition.
Yeah.
I think it probably is demonstrated. I would love to go into a Mr. Girl
I
community.
would say, like, we perceive Mr. Girl's influence to be way more than it actually is.
I also obviously agree with that, because you know how many people go, who the fuck is Mr. Girl?
Of course.
We live in a very weird bubble.
Yes.
I think
Twitter is not real life.
I will say you're right about that, but I see his aesthetic. I see the way he does his content. I see the way he is doing this, and he is gearing up to be far more influential than he is. I look at the ambition, and believe me, I respect very ambitious people. I do respect like that side of anybody, right? But at the end of the day, I sort of see Mr. Girl as a potentially very harmful force. And this has been going on for a long time. You can find TED Talks engaging in pedophile apologia in the aughts, right? Like with this sort of thing, I feel as though we are looking at the birth of something. And, you know, Joe, I remember you said last show, you were kind of just like, this is how it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to start with,
I don't think Mr. Girl is going to be the linchpin of...
No,
I don't think necessarily the linchpin, but I think he definitely wants to be. I think he definitely wants to be. Vito, you say things like that, and my head twitches, and I raise an eyebrow.
Wait,
you know
what's he the linchpin of the pedophile?
I think he wants to be. I'm not saying he is. I think he wants to.
No, I don't think. I think Mr. Girl's going to stop talking about this. Here's the thing.
He talks.
Mr. Girl
he strategizes. He had a 4-hour conversation with a virtuous pedophile, and strategizes about who is best to represent the movement.
But he has other things he wants to talk about. It's just you guys. It's not the topic du jour. I mean, more topics are going to come along. And that's what I'm going to argue is that, look, you might think he's wrong about this, but I don't think his brand is going to be, I don't think 5 years down the line, it's going to go, Mr. Girl, the guy who's still talking about pedophilia. Again, did you watch like his thing about Dr. K? That has nothing to do with the pedophilia.
I watched his
seen the whole
interview with a fan of
saga?
Dr. K. I didn't watch his thing on Dr. K. I don't know much about Dr. K, to be honest with you. I understand he's talking about other subjects. I understand that. And I'm not going to dismiss that. The thing is that I think he's very consistent in the belief, he says, even if your objective is to protect children and to protect children alone, our first priority should be the satisfaction of pedophilia. I think you can apply that across many different narratives, and it's equally as destructive and harmful. Like, would he defend Trayvon after like Trayvon Martin like shooting
Trayvon
targets?
Martin,
Would he defend
famous
that?
pedophile.
No,
would he
Trayvon
defend
Martin shooting
targets?
Yeah.
I think he would find them distasteful. I think he would say they have the right to exist.
He would. Yeah, I agree. They might have the right to exist, but I would also say that I can state their harm to society. The idea of like the idea of like practicing inflicting violence on a minority you hate, especially the depiction of an innocent person. Like I think that kind of thing is.
The innocence is of course up for debate, unfortunately.
Okay, all right, Vito. Radical centrist.
Well, wait, Trayvon Martin was the one who had the Skittles and the iced tea, right?
He had a life too. But yeah,
okay, but I'm just trying to remember which black person we.
I know, I'm fucking with you, Vito. Come on, don't you like humor?
I'm saying, look, man, I don't have video surveillance footage went down. There was no great victim testimony. It was kind of he said
off topic too, right?
She said situation.
I think it's relevant. I think the conversation between sex robot children is kind of the same between like a robot of like say a minority for like racists to shoot. I think that's a similar fucking thing because
I would give you. Yeah. What is your fear is that MrGirl is going to become popular?
It's not really a fear so much as I sense that it's very likely. It's like because I'm afraid of this narrative in the sense that like I'll be completely honest. I'm a survivor of CSA. I understand the harm this does to people, and I think that the kind of society that he would have create would do far more harm to children than the kind of society he's railing against. The stigma that exists today actually protects survivors, as opposed to people being kind of like mercenary and just like, oh, if I open up to someone about that, as opposed to them just being like, oh, whatever that happened to you, I hope the pedophile's doing better now. I hope he's got it together. Like, as opposed to that, they have the reaction of, oh, fuck, that happened to you. That's disgusting. That's awful. You know what I mean? And that is way better for me and other survivors mentally than the kind of world that he's suggesting would exist.
So can you lay out to me your theory of what MrGirl is attempting to accomplish? Is he attempting to become
I think
a
I've done that
leader,
already,
a philosopher? Well, but I'm saying, where do you see he ends up? Is he going to be a statesman, a lawyer, head of state?
Where do I see him ending up? I see him ending up.
What is your fear?
I think he's doing. I think he'll end up similar, sort of, to a. I think the thing about it that you have to so I think the thing about it is that that all depends on the reaction of people, right? So like, we've got irony. Oh, this is so funny. Ha 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 ha. Racist stuff, so funny. Then we've got post irony. Oh, I actually believe this now. I'm kind of joking about how racism is good, and I kind of think it is. And then we have and then we kind of have meta irony going after that. But I think he's going to examine kind of where the pulse is, and he's going to act from there. If it simply changes the attitude, it simply has a force that changes kind of the social attitudes around it, and we see more people kind of casually arguing his points who don't even necessarily watch MrGirl. They hear it from his viewers and his viewers and his viewers. Ideas spread like diseases, my friend. And it doesn't mean that we need to shut them down. It doesn't mean that we need to like not have free speech. I would never say.
You still there?
It sounded like they dropped.
Oh, darn. They were really on a roll. Well, if they come back, I'll happy to have them back. Here's what I was going to probably say in response is we're talking about a YouTube commentator.
They're back.
You're back.
Girl, I think the sort of like
you dropped for a second.
Sort of
we didn't hear. Hold on, Sammy. Hold on, Sammy. Sammy.
Hey, this fucking shit is like really bad. Here's why it's really bad. Here's why these ideas lead to profoundly dangerous places. Is absolutely fair and a part of the dialectic that is happening here.
Sammy, I don't know if we only heard like half of what you were saying. You dropped for like 20 seconds.
You guys,
and we didn't hear you.
We missed the part where you said you didn't want to take away his free speech.
Did I lose my internet?
We're getting some weird delay from him.
Oh,
I would drop
his internet bill.
All right, Sammy, thanks for your contributions.
Well, here's what I wanted to say to Sammy, and hopefully I'm addressing what I think he's trying to say, is MrGirl is a YouTube internet commentator. His ideas are going to be... I mean, do you guys think Vosh is the most dangerous guy in the world? Destiny? I mean, that's...
Well, I literally had Vosh here at my house 2 weeks ago.
And do you think Vosh is, like, changing the national conversation, or is it kind of just like... It's internet commentary. Ultimately, we have very little power to change the system one way or the other.
Mostly internet commentary.
Right. I'm not terrified of MrGirl becoming I don't live in a world where I think YouTubers have this great. Maybe some of them do. I don't know. Some of their ideas might get out there, but ultimately, MrGirl is telling a very small audience. I hope that you have more empathy towards pedophiles, and I don't see how that leads our society down the rabbit hole of madness. You can say it has a negative effect, a negative net effect on society if you disagree with the things he's saying. But I think we're kind of sensationalizing it to treat it like, oh my God, this man must be stopped. And maybe I'm crazy.
So Dot Executables wants to come on, and he's normally playing a character who's like, hey, I'm this guy that does his voice. So let's see what he does this time.
Way to set him up for failure.
Why are you calling out Spit?
Why did you set me up for failure? Fuck you. How about this?
Hey.
I'm not in fucking failure. I'm in a good state of mind, and you're all just poo-poo heads. Poo-poo heads who eat poo-poo.
Poo heads.
Huh? Who?
I'm agreeing with you.
Anyway, I wanted to say one thing. That was my point of coming on. Is that I've seen films far worse than Cuties. Have you ever seen Salo or 120 Days of Sodom?
Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't that use not real kids?
Pretty
What the
fucked
hell
up
is
movie.
it? Yeah.
Far worse than Cuties. I
Yeah.
can
Well, there are
guarantee
those
goddamn
things
to you that.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff people have said about Cuties is just wrong. They say, well, at one point, all these 14-year-olds take their tops off, and I'm like, that's not
true.
A movie.
It's
no, it's
that
not.
is, like,
you, said,
a lot of,
you said you didn't see it.
I read a synopsis of the objectionable.
Oh, I read a
Executables,
synopsis. Well, here's the thing. I did see it. It was pretty uncomfortable.
Dot Executables, before I kick you, just do your emo howling wolf really quick and talk
You
about...
think it's goddamn funny? I shit in my fucking diapers. You done it.
All right, there we go.
Well, folks, I think people are overestimating. I think we get in these echo chambers where we only see the same couple personalities, and we really do overestimate the amount of potential harm that can be caused. But MrGirl, yeah, he's today's flavor of the week. I don't know where it goes from here. Maybe he'll keep growing his base, but he only has 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's doing some streams that people seem to be into, but unfortunately he's already banned from Twitch. I don't know, man. Like, yeah, you can say you disagree with the guy, but the guys are going, we need to stop this pedophile enabler before he destroys society.
MrGirl's going to fade away in a year, 2 years.
Well,
the ideas that he's onto will never be attributed to him, but they were ripe for the picking. They were low-hanging fruit. I've been talking about somebody picking up that mantle for literally 15 years. Billy knows. I've been talking about it for a while. And
Billy's a conspiracy theorist, though.
No, I mean, he can verify me talking about him. So,
I think MrGirl will continue to grow at a reasonable rate.
So what's your prediction, Joe? Just so we can hear it.
Yeah, he's going to drop off.
MrGirl is going to be a guy.
No, your prediction for the future, like the projection, MrGirl will help push.
You see, MrGirl as a man doesn't matter that much. It's not going to be part of it. What he is a symptom of an idea that's going to catch legs. That's all.
In 25 years.
Symptom of an idea.
Yeah, about 25
and what's the
years.
idea? Like, it's legal to fuck kids in 25 years?
No, in 25 years, it's going to be much closer to Brave New World. So, if you ever read Brave New World, you know exactly what I'm
we're
talking
already
about.
there, man. My soma form is already kicking in.
Exactly. It's going to be even closer, though.
But how
Think
is
about the stuff
MrGirl
with-
pushing it? Tell me, like...
he's a symptom. He doesn't matter himself.
Do you
He
think
doesn't-
his views will become the norm?
Elements of
your beliefs of his views.
Hold on, let me finish.
said
Elements
right.
of
All right.
views similar are going to become accepted by a growing section of the population.
Those elements being
the destigmatization of hebephilia is going to be part of it.
You don't think that would have already happened?
I think he's a symptom. I don't think he's a cause. You keep saying he's a causal factor of something, like he has anything to do with it. No, he's a symptom. That's why I'm saying
I don't mean
listen
him
to him.
directly. Okay, this whole attitude.
Yeah, this whole attitude. It's going to catch legs, yes.
I don't want to
It's
give
going-
him credit for it, but you think it's just naturally moving in that.
It's going to move in this direction.
I feel it's been going the opposite direction.
Yeah. That's where we differ. I think things can spontaneously change.
I feel like
for
it
example,
used to be
if
because I'm what, like 10
Weimar
years
German-
older than you. In my lifetime, it's gone the other way.
Yeah, but I'm talking about epochs here. You're talking about in our lifetime. I'm talking Weimar Germany, 1924. There were child prostitutes on the street. 6 years later.
Why does it always come back to Weimar Germany?
Because it's the most recent example of this of where we're going. 9 years
Of what,
later.
child prostitution?
No, of what's going to also happen. There's going to be a mainstream Nazi push too.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
It'll be mainstream.
I don't believe this.
I think the right is going to adopt Nazi rhetoric. Right now, the alt-right already has, but I think the majority party.
They want that ethno state, man. They want it.
I think
the
give
Nazi
it
push has
15
already
years,
happened.
even less. Or no. Give it If I have 25 years for the pedophilia, it's going to be a race.
So you're serious
20
about this?
What about Nazism catching legs?
Yes.
I think it will. Yeah.
Are the Nazis
regrettably so?
Because like sometimes what you say is just shtick. So like,
regrettably so. Yeah. I think
I
that's
don't believe
growing.
this.
I think it's growing.
Well, under a
feel
different
like-
name, right? Under a different
Yeah,
name.
it'll have to be a different name, but it'll have very similar
But
sentiments.
I feel like there were other times where like rock stars in the 60s were hooking up with 13-year-olds and it was more normalized then than it could
I thought we were
ever
talking
be
about
now.
Nazis.
Well, I just mean well, you were saying the whole push, like
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah, things are going
I
to
feel like now
things
it's
are moving
way
faster now.
further away from that. Like there were things like they were letting like Kate Moss when she was like 15 years old model with like hardly any clothes on back in the early 90s.
We're in peak neo-Puritanism, and things move very fast now. We're in fragmented blip time, and before
this
you
is
know
just
it,
a theory. There's nothing
in
behind
5
this.
years, it's my guess.
Okay,
5
it's a
years
guess.
will all be fucking child sex robots.
No, that's not what I said. But
Is that 10 years out? How long, Joe?
no, more Brave New World, more like that.
Well,
Read Brave New World, and we'll talk about it.
We're all on drugs all the time.
Yep. There's also a lot of
Did Brave New World have child
hypersexualization, even
sex?
of the youth.
I'm always trying to remember what
I
book
just
it
don't
was.
see
that
it.
said- yeah.
What's that? What was the
Did,
question?
did Brave New World have like child sex?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Brave New World, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there.
I haven't read that book in a long
Oh,
time.
you'd know that, wouldn't you, pedophile?
Yeah, you would know. Out there, I read all this stuff. You would know, Lily. That was the worst. Honestly, being on a stream with a bunch of people and they go, "Yeah, you would know about that book, you sicko," and I'm like, "Oh my god, why am I even talking to these fucking people?" Well, Joe, I appreciate though.
Yeah.
It's been a good discussion. I want to say.
Thank you,
Been a
Vito.
good time.
I'm sad that you think MrGirl is a manipulator and an agent.
We're probably gonna
I
go
don't
for
know.
another 30, but if you
Not
gotta
even
go,
an
it's
agent.
cool.
I think he's just.
I might go. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I get
we
you.
appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Vito.
I'll have to come on for like we'll do like a real one. That's
When we won't talk about MrGirl or pedophilia.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Wait, Vito. Since you do know Mr. Girl, how serious was he when he said he had a crush on Michael Jackson when he was a child boy?
Oh my god.
I would have to see it again. I assume
I
he was
asked him
serious.
last night, and he's confirmed it.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And like, but did he know Michael Jackson was a guy? He must have.
He said he had a crush on Michael Jackson, and he would have easily went to the Neverland Ranch if he would like.
Yeah. And open his asshole to him, essentially, right? Something along those
He
lines?
literally said that last night. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Isn't that a Chappelle joke though? Isn't there a Chappelle joke where a kid
Yeah,
is
he's
like,
fucking stealing
"I
jokes
had
now.
sex with Michael Jackson." Can
He
you
also made that
believe it?
Macaulay Culkin
And you know
joke
what?
too.
Also, so not only did he steal from Dave Chappelle, he also stole from Marilyn Manson. He's like, when he talked about the university thing, he's like, I would listen to them. I would listen to those people that shot up the school. Marilyn Manson said that in '99.
Wow.
He's trying to be the Marilyn Manson for pedophiles.
I mean, he was 100% right when he said anybody who hasn't ever dreamed about shooting up their school is a liar. That's a
He was
common fact.
arrested.
I don't know.
for
I know
that
I
shit.
have, but
That's
He was
just
arrested
politically, not with passion
The
and
worst
not with
part
hate.
is people use that as a knock against him, and I go, no. The state not understanding free speech is not a knock against MrGirl. He is allowed to express the belief that everyone has a school shooting fantasy. How could you not?
He just can't threaten to do it. That's the difference.
Yeah, and he didn't. But this was at the time of It was right after the Virginia Tech shooting, so they're like, "Oh my God, he's gonna kill us!"
Well, of course he wasn't convicted of anything because constitutionally he couldn't be for saying that.
Yeah,
as
that's
long as
why
it
I want
wasn't
all-
a threat.
Anytime his haters go, "Well, we know he's bad because he got arrested for saying that thing," I go, "No, that's how we know he's. That's a point in his favor."
Once
I
your
hate to say it.
mugshot's out there forever, they could say it because he was arrested for molesting someone. I mean, his mugshot's out there. Like,
yeah.
That's what sucks,
Just
that
think-
mugshots are out there on the internet forever.
It's stuff. Yeah, it's a disappointment. Well, guys, I am gonna go try to make a video or whatever, but don't forget to check out youtube.com/Vito2 TWO, which right now has 9,990 subscribers.
Oh,
nice.
Almost 10K.
Push it to 10,000 today. Oh no, I literally have 9,999 subscribers. If you go to youtube.com/Vito2, you will be my 10,000th subscriber.
So, Vito, are you the replacement of Maddox on The Biggest Problem, basically?
People said that Dick is the new Maddox and I'm the new Dick. And I like to think of it that Dick is the former fan favorite who is losing his luster, and in comes this young buck.
You know, anytime
and supplant him.
Anytime I collab with someone who's a mutual friend of Maddox, he DMs them and tells them that I doxed him. Maddox hates me so much.
Just still here's the weirdest thing. I didn't listen to Biggest Problem in the Universe, the original one.
Yeah.
The only reason I ever found Dick was because Riley, his producer, came to me and he said, "Hey, that thing you did with the bathwater is funny. Do you want to come on this podcast?" And I'm like, "Oh, I think I've heard of this guy. I've definitely seen his name, Dick Masterson." So I've had to catch up on all this Maddox drama.
Yeah.
And the more I learn about this guy, the less I care for him. I hate to say it. This guy really pile drived his whole career. I mean, I guess that's the spectacle, right?
Yeah.
He went from so beloved to I just can't mentally deal with the fact that anyone is dating
The
my
original internet edgelord, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of want to be like, well, I understand that maybe it sucks if you still got feelings for this girl and a guy, but if you got a successful podcast that's making you money, I'll suck it. Dick could come and fuck all my old girlfriends at this point. I go, well, the podcast is making money. I don't give a shit. Dick could fuck my mom in front of me at this point. I'm like, I'm not throwing away those Patreon dollars. I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. So it's a guy who I guess didn't understand show business, you know, and thought he could dictate to his friends, and then the other thing is he
You're
could have
getting
said,
sued now, by the way.
Well, I'm worried about that, honestly. We'll see. I keep telling Dick, I'm like, if Maddox sues us, you know you have to cover it, right? Like, you have money, I do not.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But he could have just said, listen, it's creative differences. I feel betrayed by Dick, whatever it is, and then just moved on and done his own thing, and it still would have been okay. But he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Did
Listen
you
to
get
the biggest
10,000?
Did I get 10,000?
Yeah, did you just get it? You were one away.
I probably did. Let me check. Vito 2.
We want to be there for that moment.
And doesn't it do a live one? There's like a way to see the live rollover.
Yeah, it's
I think
like in your YouTube studio. You should be able to see.
10,000. I mean, exactly 10,000. We did it.
There you go.
Congratulations.
Tonight,
Well
live
done.
on DP.
Thanks for having us.
Congratulations.
Or thanks for being
having me, guys. I'll come back on sometime. And youtube.com/Vito/Vito2 and /biggest problem. All my channels.
All right,
Have
thanks for
fun.
coming on the
Good
show.
night,
You
buddy.
too. Matt Jarjosa. Welcome.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like everything that we've heard a lot of different viewpoints about this issue tonight, and I don't know if I'm adding anything new to it or all. But the thing, and the problem that I have with like MrGirl is, regardless, I mean, we hear people like saying it's like, well, he has a right to say what he's saying, or he's just trying to get rouse empathy for people with this condition so that maybe they can go get help. But when I hear him, it just seems kind of more like he's a backdoor entry to try and justify pedophilia or hebophilia or whatever. I guess for me, the big thing is it's like, if he was so virtuous, what's the point of the argument that he's making? I guess I don't know. It doesn't seem sincere to me.
So half of the argument is at least shrouded in sensibility, and it's about prevention. It's destigmatization of people who are non-offenders that have these sort of attractions, to be able to come forward and be honest about it and not fear action against them and be able to get treatment, that sort of thing. But then he throws out, but everyone wants to fuck a 15-year-old, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like the first part of that, it's like, okay, but that's what I mean when it's like almost a backdoor entry in a way. Because he's like, yeah, I know. I'm not good with my words. I'm just saying, like, he starts out with a reasonable take, and then he jumps in with with that, and it just, that's where I just completely get, I'm lost. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
And that's the trick. That's Mr. Girl's trick. A lot of people fell for it. You didn't. That's good. I didn't either. That's his trick. It's a very simple one. It's a shame that we had to tell everybody how the sausage was made. I hope that doesn't ruin him in any way. I hope he still gets fans that he can dupe. It's his trick as a performer. It's a very simple one, and it's not very impressive once you know how it works, but it was enough to dazzle some people enough that they believed he had an answer for something, or that he was a beacon of hope for their cause. So, yeah, I'd say your analysis is very similar to mine, Matt Jar Joseph.
Because, that's the thing. It's like the way that you dealt with him, like on the last show. For me, I've heard him before. I heard him on Vosh when he was talking with him, and I'm just like, I don't think this guy really has much really truly to offer. And I don't know, I felt like that was a pretty reasonable way of dealing with somebody like that in my mind. I don't know. I'm probably wrong about.
Well, that's fine. That's your opinion. It's not wrong or right.
Sure.
Like, I disagree. I think maybe Joe should have handled it, because I think Joe could have made. The problem is Joe didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, I can easily show respect to someone I don't actually respect. I don't know if Joe can.
Well, sure. I guess
it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm trying to say, and I'm not necessarily using the best words. I'm trying to say, it's like, I feel like that's it. It's like, I don't think it's worth dealing with in a way.
I can have neutral or even like slightly. It would take me to really not respect you to not be able to fake that I respect you. Like, I can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is like, I get the sentiment there. It's just like, I don't feel like this is worth entertaining.
That's
just
it
my
wasn't
2
about
cents on it.
entertaining it. It was just about having a conversation. Like, normally it's like, look at this stupid video. Oh, dude, we're talking about farts. Oh, no, we're talking about poop. Oh, no, we're talking about Chipotle. Oh, no, we're talking about, like, it's like, let's try something else for a change. Something actually provocative,
And I think we did that.
Yes.
I think it worked.
I think it could have been done a little bit better.
Luckily, it was
more
entertaining.
Thank
Well,
you.
yes,
But
yes.
I bring up the question again. Is there a chance for a sequel, for a follow-up, where Joe does present a level of respect to engage with him?
That would be great. You know
think the
what?
bridge might have been burned,
if he'll have us.
Are you really now gonna do?
If
Oh,
he'll
see,
have
that's
us.
how you got to propose it, because you weren't giving him the time of day. You weren't letting him speak.
Yep.
But if you did, I would be very curious to see it.
That's what I wanted. Thank you, Edwin.
Okay.
Like,
hey Ben, there's more. What
I
do
know,
they
but
say
you
in the
ruined
biz?
it.
Hey, hold on. What do they say in the biz? There's more dough in the rematch. No, so yeah, if he'll have us, I'd love to talk to him for real this time. And if he wants to talk to the podcast without me, that's cool too.
He already did, though, because you left the room for like over an hour.
If he wants to talk some more, show there's
But I
more
got
to it.
some of the questions in that I wanted, just like the regular like biographical questions.
So Ben, you're leaning towards that there's going to be no other avenue. You think he won't show up?
I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like Joe is someone that's good at contesting, his beliefs, and you can actually like, engage him because he does do like the way he kind of does the slow talking and kind of like leaves so much blank space for the person to kind of engage when he says a ridiculous hypothetical. I'm like, okay, this feels kind of weird. It's kind of like asking for the person to say something outrageous.
That's another. That's another key psychological trick. I don't even know if he articulated the point, but a lot of people are instinctively afraid of silence. And there's an old radio
He
axiom.
does that a lot. He'll go silent and be like,
Yeah, there's an old radio axiom that never leave dead space, never dead air.
That's why Billy beatboxes on the show sometimes.
Yeah, but when you're when you have the aid of a visual medium, you can have dead space. You can, and you shouldn't be afraid of it either. And it's good that he's not. Somebody told a joke once that Steve Jobs managed to pivot his startup into a multi-billion-dollar industry by getting rid of ums and replacing it with dead silence. There's power in silence and being able to take
Were
your time.
his lectures dead silent? Did he have
He would
pauses?
have pauses. He would have
Okay.
pauses when he was talking, and he would never say He would just...
That makes sense, honestly.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe's down. So.
Yeah.
Chad doesn't
Joe-
believe it. Some chatters say, nope, he's not gonna do it.
Yeah,
Joe says
honestly,
he's
I
down.
talked to Mr. Girl last night after the stream, and he was like, Joe's a shitty co-host.
Maybe true. Yeah.
Well, the great part about Joe is like he's like a what's it called, like method actor kind of guy. He can fucking do it.
You know what?
Even if he doesn't like it.
And that's why I had him here. He just didn't do it like the way I had hoped. But no, you're right. I don't know if you watched the stream where Billy drove to Onision's house.
Yeah.
And all the way there, Joe was like, yeah, we're going to take this guy down. What? There's kids? We're going to kidnap those kids. Take them to justice. And in the whole time, he was like, yeah, that groomer piece of shit. We're going to take him out. And then they get to Onision's house, and Onision walks out, and the first thing Joe does is give Onision a big hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And the fucking chat, like the super chats, constantly yelling, "Billy the fridge." Was that right?
Oh god, yeah, that was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
I like to think you were like, if you're against pedophiles, knock him out right now, Billy. And Billy's like, I don't want to. And Onision's standing there like, do it, Billy.
Oh, poor Billy.
and then Onision turned him over. Like, how do you turn Billy over? Turned him around, bent him over, and just like banged his butt live. Like, what was that?
Dominance.
Because I remember I was still sleeping that day, and I got a phone call from Joe being like, Ben, can we go to Onision's house? We can do the show after we go there. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, see, Billy, we can do it. Because Billy was like, oh, I can't do it because Ben will get mad. So Joe called me. It was like, Ben, can we do it? I'm like, yeah, go ahead and do it. He's like, see?
He knew it wasn't a good idea. He knew.
So they go there. I'm watching it live, and Onision's like butt humping Billy and like grabbing his boobs and is like, yeah, you got the best fucking tits on earth. It's the most fucked up thing I've ever seen ever.
Yeah, it's like there was no objective. It was just chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, do you have anything else for us?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Joe, I've
Thanks
got
for
a
joining
treat
us.
for you.
Oh,
I've
no.
got a treat for
oh,
you.
It better not. You can't. Oh, fuck.
Whoa.
Hi.
It's
How's it going?
Egghead.
Good. I was good.
Yeah, you were good until you saw my ugly mug.
Egghead, don't agree with me.
Okay.
Pisses me off even more.
Well, I'm sorry that my existence pisses you off, buddy.
Oh, be nice to Egghead.
Thanks for
Be nice to
calling.
Egghead. Be nice to myself is more like it. Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, come on, buddy.
What's up, Egghead?
Just browsing around, checking in, seeing that y'all are streaming, and I see y'all discussing the topic of
Yeah. Why did you whisper it?
I don't know.
So his neighbors don't hear.
It's not the N word.
I know, right? Fine, pedophiles. Disgusting pieces of shit.
There's no nuance to that at all, kid.
Man, what are you gonna do?
Hold on,
A
though.
few people actually switched sides. They were like, you know what? I was anti-pedophile, but this fucking moonface
Until
just
they
said that.
met, until they heard
Mr. Girl just got 2
voice.
more followers.
Lovely, lovely. Wasn't even trying to do that, but hey, what are you gonna do?
Anything else, Egghead?
Thanks for joining us, Egghead. We'll talk to you
have,
again.
have a good night. Bye.
Good night,
Okay,
Egghead.
if there's any others, we'll do one more, and then
oh God,
we'll sign off.
This person.
David El Nomo. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
Hey. What's on your mind?
I kind of wanted to touch on that topic from earlier about, I guess, the implications of the future or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you think that, like, I guess Mr. Girl's like a blip in all this or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but earlier I think you said something along the lines of, like, I guess, like, the pedophiles are, like, looking for their, like, MLK, basically, to paraphrase. And I can't really imagine that being something that the public would ever really, like, latch onto.
I agree.
I don't really see the acceptance thing as, like, yeah, I don't know.
And they haven't in the past, even in like the free love generation where everybody was banging everybody.
I hope you're right, but I think, and I'm very pessimistic about things in general, and this is what I operate on. Two probably incorrect aphorisms. One is, with the correct framing, you can convince most anyone of most anything, and two, the fact that we don't know that makes us more susceptible to being convinced.
But why
of anything
haven't
with
we
the
been
right
convinced of just like working for free and like, I mean, like, why haven't we been convinced of even more stuff to turn us into slaves? And
I think it all depends upon framing. If the framing is good, if somebody found a way to frame it, and I think they have before in the past, feudal enterprises and whatnot.
But we learn over time. They can't
Sure.
recycle everything. And I think this idea has already been pushed out there.
And
I think the
epochs.
majority of people
Yeah.
are sensible enough to reject this idea, and most people are not naturally attracted to children.
With the correct framing,
So-
all you would have to do is change it into something innate
but
and
attraction
immutable.
is natural in many ways, and most people just aren't naturally attracted to children. So
No,
that
that's
would
not
be
what
a
you would
hard
need
sell
either.
to the people who
That's not what
just-
you would need anyway. And then as far as natural, what constitutes natural and unnatural, I think sex is plastic, far more plastic
It
than we
is,
give it
but
credit
it's
for.
still there's still that biological drive, and we're attracted to someone we can reproduce with, and children you can't reproduce.
Yeah, like there's no furry gene right now. As long as it stays a paraphilia or a kink or something like that, it's going to be relatively benign.
So should
and
it be wiped
especially-
out as a paraphilia?
No, what's going to happen is what I'm telling you, is there's going to be an attempt at some level to turn it into something innate and immutable, and you can do this through the correct framing. Isolate a gene. Don't acknowledge that it could be epigenetic. Don't acknowledge that it was ever found in never found in a child. Don't acknowledge that in an identical zygote split down the middle, it was only found in one and not the other in 70% of the cases. You could still, with the correct framing, get enough people to say, oh, I guess there are little pedo babies floating around in the womb. You could, and you could get even clever people to believe it with the correct framing.
Is mental illness genetic in some cases?
It's heritable. I don't think it's necessarily in the genes. I don't think genes are puppet masters.
How does it pass on to the next generation, or is there other I'm just talking mental illness in general.
It seems to be a mixture of both, nature via nurture. So if genes are the switchboard, nature is what turns them on and off. And there is
Could things
heritability.
like addiction and stuff turn them on and off?
Sure.
Too? Okay.
Sure.
All right.
I mean, I agree that genes aren't the decider. I think, people brought that up a lot with the gay thing, and I think it never really went anywhere.
What do you mean?
Like, it was always brought up as an argument, like, I don't know, for or against, like, identifying the gay gene or whatever, like, back in the 90s. But, like, it was never really an intrinsic part of, like, I don't know, the push towards, I don't know, gay rights. And I guess that would be sort of the equivalent here, right?
Yeah, it could be. You don't think it was successful in gaining acceptance for gay rights?
The gay gene thing? No, I don't think they ever really even proved it was like a genetic thing. Did they?
Are you saying gays choose to be gay?
It's like, you know, genetic and environmental factors. I don't know about choice. Maybe to a degree. I don't know.
I learned in college that it was genetic.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Well, maybe I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know.
That's all right. Intelligence and knowledge aren't the same thing, David.
Have they identified like an actual gene though?
They have.
They have?
They have.
Yeah, I didn't know.
They did isolate it.
specifically.
I'll have to look into it.
Whether it's causal or not, that's a topic of debate.
Sure.
But
anyway, that was all I had.
Thank you, David. Great last caller.
Yeah, we got like 5 minutes left to wrap it up.
Thank you, Edwin, for being
Well, thanks
here.
for letting me on this last minute thing.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, I do think the most offensive thing was him saying he'd open his butthole to Michael Jackson. I'll stand by that.
That is weird.
That was odd, yeah.
Because and the reason why I actually agree also with Joe's stance is because he says this like a deadpan face. He knows it's gonna make people react, but he's just playing it off. Like he's acting like it's normal. No, it's not normal. Yet like when Joe's pressing on him, he I don't know what kind of point I'm trying to make, but dude,
I know
you're going for like a reaction from people. You're a provocateur, but you're not. Like when somebody else tries to provoke you, you're just like, all right, I'm dipping now. This is not, Sorry,
exactly. He takes his ball and goes home. And he threatened to leave. It was clear he wanted to stay. He threatened to leave 5 different times, and each time we called his bluff and was like, no. At first, I knew it wasn't going to go any further, so I left. I thought it was.
I look forward to the rematch.
Good.
So now you're gonna do the rematch with him.
Yeah,
and it'll last longer than 5 minutes.
If he'll be on, definitely. I'll be. That's actually going to be one of the things. If I don't, you guys can beat the shit out of me.
We're not gonna beat the shit
You
out
can
of
beat
you.
the shit out
I don't
of me.
care.
I'll just let him take it.
I refuse.
Okay, well then you have my word. I'm going to be as polite as I can manage with Mr.
It will
Girl.
be a bad look on the show if there's it's just chaotic a second time. We need to to have
It's already a bad look.
Exactly. We got to fix our image. We're looking bad.
What are you talking about?
We took a big L yesterday, Ben.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right though.
Thanks everybody for being here for this impromptu aftermath show. I will. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Thanks for being on, Edward. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.
In the beginning, there was nothing. And then there was the Drunken Peasants Podcast.
Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. From the strangest corners of the internet, gonna get TP'd by Billy and Ben. You know where you can find them at. Get ready, cause they're gonna kick your... Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants. Drunken Peasants.